He will empty it out here, 5 wide on 3rd and long. Tunnel screen, Monterey Baldwin has an opening. Monterey, touchdown Baylor.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And here goes Shipley. They could not get him down. Clemson takes the lead. On a 50-yard touchdown run by Will Shipley.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Got it down here you can work with. Duggan play action to throw it. Looking left, deep ball's got Quentin Johnston. Breaking free, get there, ball. It does. Here's Johnson to the 5. Touchdown, hit the board. 55-yard strike. Duggan to Quentin Johnston. Horned Frogs retake the lead in the 3rd.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Wants to snap, got it. Back to throw with time. Throws, punt, maybe, could be, it will be. Touchdown Oregon, Bucky Irving. Could be, might be, maybe it is.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Sanders has a completion and a first down and a broken tackle by Bryson Green, and he's going to go to the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma State takes the lead.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. Mondays are always really something where we could just go on for hours and hours and hours with all of what looking back, but also looking ahead. Injuries playing a big factor moving forward, and even perhaps some things over the weekend as well. TCU and Oklahoma State with very important big-time wins. Oklahoma State hung around, took care of business. TCU was down 28-10, and they then eventually just took care of business. Baylor-Tech survived. They play again an elimination game this weekend. We'll have the top 25, the new bangers for this week. Who is the best 2-loss team in America, and who are the most disappointing teams? And it's pretty much the same as we have said. Paul Catalina is to my left in the gray shirt. Craig Smoak to my right in his hat. 365 Sports. We appreciate those of you already on with us today. We could start a lot of different ways, but man, I tell you what, TCU is really good.
Yeah,
They're really good.
They are, and they went into halftime. Of course, that touchdown they scored before halftime
was big.
Kind of lessened the pressure on them to do what they did in the second half. But from that touchdown on, they took over that game. And, of course, the way that things have turned for them, the way they're rolling on and playing confident, and Max Duggan doesn't – the moment's not too big for him anymore, which was a problem in previous seasons. Now he is absolutely just a gamer. And we saw him against Baylor in that game, have that a couple years ago, but it seemed like it was kind of one side of the coin or the other with him, where the moment was either too big or it is like he is now, where it's just go, 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 and go score points. And that's what they do. And their defense is pretty darn good too. not world beaters, but they do what they need to do when they have to. And Oklahoma State hung around, and Quinn Ewers had his worst game. He really did. He had a really bad game.
If he has another one like that,
that was a really bad game. And, for whatever reason, and they hung around, and they won, and the race pretty much stays the same.
Craig, if you have a 14-point lead and you have Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson and you're running the ball at 10 yards a pop, or it seems that way, should you ever blow the lead?
I mean, you wouldn't think so, but that's exactly what Texas did, which is why you asked that question. A bad day for Quinn Ewers. The wind, to what extent that played a role. Certainly there's plenty of people that believe it played a major role. I think his inexperience, being on the road for the first time, I think, a combination of factors. I think Sarkisian's play calling. I think, Oklahoma State's defense. I think, a number of things came into play to cause, Oklahoma State to rebound and grab that win, or to come back and grab that win. But, yeah, that was not a game that Texas should have lost, if not for their own mistakes. And I didn't even bring up the penalty part of that. And I know that there is a segment of the fan base that will argue, like, that's why they lost. That's not why they lost. That was a part of why they lost. But, at the same time, there's a graphic out there about how disciplined Oklahoma State is, how they're one of the top 3 or 5 teams in the country as far as least penalized go. And not all of those penalties were judgment calls, by the way, either. So, if you want to throw those in there, you can throw those in there as a reason as to why Texas could not hold that lead. But it's one of like 7 different things. When you've got wide receiver throwing up gang signs to his assistant coach on the sidelines, when you've got, Ewers having his worst day in a uniform, when you have a number of penalties, all of those things added up to disappointment for Texas. And so the little postseason bubble, as unrealistic as that was already going into this weekend with 2 losses, that's completely popped now. For them, the Big 12 championship is still doable, but they don't really have much room for error. For Oklahoma State, just a very resilient, gutsy victory. And I know some will be quick to take that away from them because, there was these penalties. Or, if Ewers would have played better. We can do that with every game with every team that loses. If this didn't happen or if that didn't happen. For Oklahoma State, they could have just cratered. They could have gotten down and just been like, we're half our team's banged up and injured. Spencer Sanders is at 100%. It's not our day. And instead, they just stayed in it, and then ultimately popped some plays and found themselves victorious. And I think that's the sign of a champion. I think that Oklahoma State certainly got some help, but they had to finish the job, and that is why I think they're one of the top 2 teams in the conference, and they deserve some love this week, even if it wasn't all they're doing. They deserve a lot of love.
I brought them up.
But when you are good and you do the right things and you don't commit penalties, those things happen for you. And the biggest thing to me was like the help they got. They capitalized on. Look, Quinn Ewers. A lot of things that were going wrong with him were not even things that Oklahoma State was doing to him. He was just turned
Sailing
up too
it, yeah.
much.
Sometimes Justin Verlander goes out on the mound and he doesn't have it.
Exactly.
I'm not comparing him by any means.
But what makes Oklahoma State good is that there are teams in the country that could get that same performance out of a quarterback who could be elite like Quinn Ewers, who's very talented and has his day where he's sailing everything. He's all over the strike zone, so to speak, Smokey, to follow your metaphor there. And then they don't capitalize on it. What did Oklahoma State do? You're going to overthrow 2 passes to wide open receivers? We're going to get the ball back, and we're going to go score.
By the way, I listened to Mike Gundy. I really started to enjoy the way he kind of looks at football and life, and I didn't do that until this year. I started doing it after the Big 12 championship game. I really loved the way his response was to a devastating play at the end, and I've just kind of liked listening to him. He said that on one of the kickoff returns or one of the kick coverage game, and it might have been early, they had 9 players on a kick coverage team that had never played college football before. You talk about your special teams coaches puckered up, and Gundy actually is someone who handles a lot of the special teams for Oklahoma State. They played 6 freshmen on defense. They're beat up. They found a way, just like they had the big road win earlier in Waco. Yes, they had the loss to TCU, which was bang, bang, but TCU and Oklahoma State are now here. Kansas State's right there, but they have quarterback injury issues that remain to be seen. But right now, TCU and Oklahoma State have separated by just a smidgen.
Yeah, they have, and I think both things can be true. That Texas should have won that game, and Oklahoma State should have won that game. I think that one team ultimately made more plays and played a cleaner, sharper game. And if Texas wants to win a game like that, then cut down on the penalties, because again, not all of those were. The official just has it out for us. I thought that was far too much of the storyline after that, and more of the credit needs to be given to Oklahoma State and how they played, given how beat up they were going into that game and what a question mark Spencer Sanders was.
Yeah, no question about it. And what I loved about Spencer Sanders is all week we discussed whether he was healthy enough to play. He was really good. You put up the list for the Earl Campbell-Tyler Rose Award. He had over 300 yards. He managed the game. He threw a bad pick in the end zone, but Oklahoma State keeps going. Baylor beats Kansas. It looked like it could be a blowout, and they had to hold on for their dear life at the end, and they got the huge night, the huge afternoon from Richard Reese.
Yeah, they did. They needed that. I was very concerned in the third quarter and on into the fourth, where they kind of let their guard down again, and this is what they do. Like they start to balance out the good with the bad too much instead of putting the accelerator down. And they were set up to make that game 35-3 going into halftime perfectly. Ben Sims drops an interception in the end zone, or drops a sure touchdown in the end zone, and then Blake Shapen throws an interception on the next play. It's like when you walk a guy with 2 outs in the ninth. You just start a whole thing. They created an opportunity for a mistake, and they made it. And then from that point on until the fourth quarter, where they realized they had to really put the pedal down, they didn't. And that's what this team needs, is some sort of killer instinct that they don't quite have. They made the drive at the end of the game when they needed to, but they could have not had to do that and probably won the game 42-10.
Yeah, I eventually want to circle back to TCU and talk about them, but for Baylor, that was a big-time win, and, that was one that I don't know, man. I'm torn on this win coming out of it. Like, it's great that they won and everything, but the style in which they did it just gives me such little, feel good. To be honest with you. Richard Reese was great. That was a great performance to see. There were some turnovers, and I understand I'm probably grading them on too high of a scale. This is not a Big 12 championship squad, and that's fine to say. Not everybody is. Most of the league's teams are not. 9 of them won't be. But that went from, blow them out and enjoy it and love every minute of it to holding on by the seat of your pants in the fourth quarter, hoping you're not going to have one of the most historically bad losses in program history, right? That's basically what it turned into on homecoming day. And that just, I don't know, guys, about y'all, but that just left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I understand that everybody was enjoying the win, and I enjoyed the fact that they won, because it was sure better than talking about what that loss would have been like. My God, that would have been horrific to have to talk about. But that went from 28-3 at halftime. Should have at minimum been 35-3. Really, you could argue it should have been 42-3 at halftime. And it turned into a 28-23 ball game with less than 10 minutes to go.
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I had a bad feeling. I had a bad feeling when Sims dropped the fumble Shapen and the Sims drop pass. Those two plays just golly.
They're about to drive the dagger in. Shapen fumbles, and it's nearly a scoop and score, identical to West Virginia the week prior. They stop, it from being a full run back, but, it turns into a touchdown 2 plays later once Kansas gets the ball, that deep. The Ben Sims drop, there's not an easier touchdown catch in the world to be made. And I understand it was windy on Saturday, so, we're using that for Quinn Ewers as an excuse, or at least some are. I think that did have an effect in some ways for Baylor on Saturday. You look at, a couple of throws Shapen made that were just the way he was throwing it, or the wind, or the combination, or what. They were just kind of funky ducks, right? They were just weird-looking balls coming out of his hand. And, that's going to happen, but... Yeah, Ben Sims, you have to catch that football. Mm-hmm. Everything flipped when you didn't catch that football. Everything flipped, and you're a fifth-year senior, man. That you can't do that. So I'm thankful that they ended up winning the game. I don't want to make it sound like it was just total disaster, because Richard Reese was sensational. The run game as a whole was fantastic. The offensive line got back to their ways of last year, it felt like, and just kind of grinding away. And, Shapen, despite some mistakes, and turnovers are an issue, there's no doubt. He made some great throws. There were things to like, a lot of things to like, but just I felt like they really did themselves a disservice with the way they played that second half, and you had a victory that you could really feel great about, and instead you're like, gosh, man, they almost blew that.
Yeah, it was a sickening feeling as you watched it because there's no question you lose that one. We said it all throughout the week. If you lose that one, you're done. We are going to try to bounce around to a lot of different things. We started out with TCU and Oklahoma State. We're going to get back to TCU. Quentin Johnston put on a show again after being held pretty much in check. They just keep finding ways. The running game, Kendry Miller, all of what they did with Duggan. And their defense is just like playing with their hair on fire, giving up plays, but playing with their hair on fire. So you have Anthony Cook at Texas breaks his arm. He is an assassin back there, and I use that in a way that I would want a guy like that back there. He's the one I think that may have hit Deckers that forced the fumble or created for sure the fumble, although it might have been coming loose before then. And I like the way he plays. Broke his arm week to week on how he responds. You have Adrian Martinez, who was slightly injured against Iowa State, who went out early against TCU. They bring in Howard, and he looks like the starter. He's 28-10, and then he goes out. And so, you have a lot of this going on, this conference. We're seeing a lot of different quarterbacks having to play. Some of them that replace the starters are playing really well, like who Baylor with Baron Morton this weekend.
Yeah, Anthony Cook did have the hit on Deckers that you're talking about, and that is a major loss for them in the secondary. I don't think there's two ways about that. He's played a lot of football for them and is a good player. So that's tough. But, yeah, I mean, I saw, various, tweets of the kind of the same message as far as just rolling down, like Oklahoma without Dylan Gabriel and what a difference that made for them not having him for some games there, and then getting him back, and you saw them turn around and just beat Kansas and score a bunch of points. It's like, yeah, there's players that are important focal points of teams, and every team, it seems like just about, except for probably TCU at this point, has had some significant injury and two quarterbacks most of the time. That's just kind of the way that it's worked out, and not necessarily for Oklahoma State this past weekend, but they sent out a laundry list of players and several significant contributors that weren't playing against Texas in that game, and just so happened that Spencer Sanders wasn't one of them, but he's clearly still, dealing with some things. So, yeah, injuries matter, and when you're having a run like TCU's having, or like Baylor had last year, that's part of the run, right? You don't see teams like losing a bunch of starters and then still continuing on that run magically. Like, it may happen on occasion. Like, you have your Ohio State story of a third-string quarterback winning a national title, although their third-string quarterback still probably higher rated than most everybody's first-string quarterback. So, those things happen. But, yeah, I think by the end of this, whoever's got the healthiest squad is going to be, probably in line for playing for the Big 12 title. And for TCU, if they can maintain the health that they've had, that's going to go a long way in them remaining where they are on top of the standings right now.
All right, so some of you, here's C. Jenkins, 14-0 in penalties. Way to not make it obvious. They're Big 12 officiating. I love it when Texas fans bitch and moan about the officials. It really kind of almost makes my day.
I mean,
I do know this as well. There were, I think, 2 or 3 penalties that were declined, or they didn't need to take the penalty because Texas was making plays. If it was 1, 2, or 3, but I believe there were 2 or 3 where they were penalized, but the flag was picked up and or declined because Texas didn't need the penalty.
Well, and as we said, too, and I don't know what the final total was, not all of those were, not penalties. It's not like
false starts.
13 of them were bad calls. It's like, no, false starts are very much a Texas issue. And so, I understand bringing up 14-0 and how ridiculous that is. I totally understand it. So I think it's kind of unfair to just jump all over somebody saying that because it does matter. However, that had nothing to do with Quinn Ewers airmailing footballs. That had nothing to do with Sark's play calling. That had nothing to do with throwing up gang signs on the sideline. That had nothing, that had nothing to do with a lot of the other things that also added up to that loss. So, yes, if you want to complain about the penalties, that's fair. That was a weird set of circumstances on Saturday that led to 14-0. That should not happen, or that typically never happens. But that was not the only reason they lost that game.
What I do think, though, had happened to Texas because, and I believe it's because of, if he saw both of Jatavian Sanders' false starts, he had 2. And that's a tight end with 2 false starts. It usually doesn't happen because most of the time he can see the ball and all that. He's got a little tick that he does to get an advantage before the snap. And it's slight, but it's a false start. And I think either the Oklahoma State coaches or someone alerted the officials to watch 0 at Texas. He has a little bit of a tick that's a false start, and he got caught twice. It might be the first time this year he has. And so those things add up. And there's those other things. So when you start looking for those things, then you start noticing other things. But I believe the officiating crew was probably alerted to that, and it's a penalty. And so they called it, and then they start going, well, guess what else? The other things they do. Look at that.
Well, I don't want to spend all damn first hour of this show discussing that. It was a part of it. Also, Xavier Worthy, it's interesting to me that the week before, Xavier Hutchinson, a phenomenal player for Iowa State, tripped over himself or just hyperventilated on what would have been a walk-in touchdown. Texas had the dagger on a throw from Ewers to Xavier Worthy, and somehow in Xavier Worthy, he might be as valuable as Bijan is to them. He just got mixed up. Maybe it was the wind, maybe it was the throw, maybe it was the route, I don't know, but he fell down, and that was shocking that happened because he catches that and probably game over, but that happened as well.
And here's the thing is, like, the penalties also come into play, not focusing on that because of the fact that it was still such a close game. Like, everybody's, who's embracing the fact that Texas lost that game, everybody wanted to see it because they wanted to see, like, any, sort of playoff. Like, the playoff talk was ridiculous going into last week, whatever there was. But now it's, like, totally out the window. Like, people love to see Texas lose, granted. But, yeah, like, that was tough because I think Texas sees how, like, as badly as they played with 14-0 in penalties and Ewers having his worst day by far as a college quarterback and clearly some chemistry issues going on, they still were there to win that game at the very end of it. And that's what I think is the most frustrating part. And, yeah, I mean, you can point to whatever you want to point to, but there was a combination of errors that led to that loss in Stillwater, and it sure looked there for a while like they were going to grab it. And, I don't know what we'd be talking about or how we'd be talking if they had gone and done that. And I think that's why it's such a double whammy for Texas fans is that you could have won that game if you just played a little cleaner. Some will default to the excuses, but, yeah, that was there for the taking, and they let it slip out of their fingertips. And so kudos to Oklahoma State, and that's why they are where they are.
So Sanders bounces back for Oklahoma State. TCU, they win. We'll look at all the games, look at the schedule. I want to get into a couple of the top 25 games as well. And we'll have Robert Allen, who covers Oklahoma State, on with us at 3:45 today. So, Tennessee did what they're supposed to do against UT Martin. Bama just chokehold Mike Leach, who said in his postgame, what's our problem? We have guys that look at Alabama's jerseys and they basically just wilt like a bad flower.
You can almost predict the Mississippi State letdowns. Like, how they get up and they play a really good game, or they get into they're in the rankings, and like I don't know. There's always a game where the bottom falls out, and it's like, the next week they'll be back to normal. But
this year it's when they leave the friendly confines of Starkville, Mississippi.
Yes, but yeah, that was a very Mississippi State like loss, and not surprising really at all. I didn't think.
All right, LSU was Oregon. I think it had to be Oregon. Who had the bigger win, Oregon or LSU? It had to be Oregon because they beat a top 10 team. And they beat them.
Well, so did LSU.
But Oregon's in the top 10 and beat a top 10 team. Mike Scarborough, who covers LSU for us, just after 5 will join us on that. So you had what, again, was a weekend. So pretty much Wake Forest is ranked number 10 in the country. Tied with USC in the AP poll and number 10 in the coaches poll. I didn't say they shouldn't have been.
No, I'm just like
Penn State had a nice win, hammered Minnesota. They're kind of back up. I think they have who do they play this weekend? It's Penn State, Ohio State. Ohio State puts up a lot of points. Ole Miss, they dropped 5. I said this Saturday night, and I just knew it. LSU deserves to be ranked. They deserve to be ranked. Ole Miss dropped, I think, 8 in one poll, 5 in another. They should have dropped. UCLA dropped 5 in another poll. But I knew that LSU would be ranked, and they should be ranked, but I wondered, should they get inside the top 25 or the top 20?
I think they're a top 20 team.
18 in one, 20 in another. Unranked, they move up. South Carolina is now ranked, and they beat a team that may be the most disappointing team in all of college football in A&M.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much complaint about LSU. I mean, them going into the top 20, I think, is perfectly fine. They're 6-2, and they had a massive win there. The one that's BS is South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, they're 5-2, but I mean, that is an average team if there was ever an average team. And like, there is, there is a total monopoly on the rankings on the part of voters in the SEC teams. Like, they get the benefit of the doubt and they get the rub more than any other team out there. Just look at the rankings. If one falls out, one gets in. It never fails.
Or one drops, another one comes in, and just
and then jumps like 7 spots up. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever, like, some of these people that put together these big, massive, like, PowerPoint projects, like Tony Altomore or whatever for the ratings, they should do a study on the rankings the last 10, 15, 20 years and see how there's like this little bubble of protection. And I think that many people have picked up on this over the years of just, well, there's 7 teams in the top 25. And like you hear that all the time. Well, it's kind of rigged. I mean, it really kind of is, because one team falls out and inevitably somebody jumps up. And in this case, it's South Carolina is now at 25. Yep. And so you don't lose anything. It's like just, see you, Mississippi State, but here comes the Gamecocks, whether deserving or not. And I just think it's kind of rigged and it's kind of silly. And I think anybody who's paying attention realizes that, but that's not going to stop people from pounding their chest over the top 25.
They beat a team that they've never beat. Congratulations, South Carolina. But that team is in an awful way right now.
Yeah, and by the way, I will say this in protection of South Carolina. If you look at both the AP and coaches poll, there is a major drop-off from South Carolina at 25 and 26 in either poll, which is Texas. It's a major drop-off. I mean, like 60, 70, 80 points difference in one of the polls. So there is a huge gap. So that's what they both have with South Carolina. Tulane won after they were ranked. Good to see them doing what they did as well. This
isn't even so much a commentary on this week. This is a general observation that could be applied to almost any week when you're looking at the rankings and the SEC structure of the rankings. There's plenty of examples of Team A falls out, Team B, and maybe even Team C take significant jumps. So I'd be willing to bet we've probably seen weeks where they actually end up with more despite a team losing, like go from like 6 to 7 ranked teams, even though one team falls out. That's just kind of how it works, but it is what it is.
I'm not so sure Ole Miss should have dropped 8 by losing to a team that's now 6-2. So I'm not saying, but they did drop 8 in the Associated Press poll.
And not arguing that they're not the best league either.
Not at all.
Yeah. Not at all. I think that they are. Big 12's got an argument for that as well. The Pac-12, I don't know, best. They're still competitive. I don't know how much best I would apply to that at this stage. Oregon's clearly looking good, and USC, and we'll see kind of how the rest of the way goes with how UCLA continues and so on. But that's a poll that anybody who's that's an opinion that anybody who's paid attention to polls for years has, I think, at this point.
All right, we will come back with more. This is 365 Sports. There's so much to get to, and we will, on what it meant for Oregon, what it does mean in the SEC with what LSU did to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, of course, still has Georgia, and they still have Alabama coming down the pipeline. They were all the way up as high as number 6 or 7, and so they now
they don't have Georgia. They just have Alabama.
Well, that's good. Good for them. They don't have to lose that game either. All right, we will do much more. Joey McGuire joins us today at 4:30. We'll have some comments from Dave Aranda today from his earlier press conference. Robert Allen on Oklahoma State. Mike Scarborough on LSU. We'll look at the NFL. David Hellman, a couple of Big 12 notes in the NFL with Breece Hall and Sam Ehlinger to get to as well. Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. We have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will have you driving home in style, like a new 2022 Dodge Challenger or Charger. Don't settle for anything less than high-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Dodge Challenger and Charger. Stop by today or browse online at AllenSamuelsDCJ.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC. D.C.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, here we go. This Monday show, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Don't forget tonight, 10:30. Sports Tonight on the CW channel. We'll highlight a lot of what we say today and have that on that station. I thought a couple of different notes that's interesting. This is just a bizarre note. Weber State lost to Montana State 43-38. They had 4 snaps go over the punter's head that resulted in safeties in one game.
I believe that's an NCAA record, no? I believe it is.
It is the most in a single game in both FBS and or FCS history. Yep.
And I saw some of the clips from that one.
They weren't even close.
Some people picked up on what was going on and started, putting out the videos. And yeah, it was a awful showing for any special teams, viewers out there. It's like nightmare scenario times 10 of not just once, not just twice, not 3 times, 4 safeties in a game, and just bad snap. I mean, awful. I don't know what all was going on, but, man, I've never quite seen anything like that. So, yeah, not a fun way to make history.
No, and I would like someone that has the resources and wherewithal to start a special team school, because I feel like it's getting worse over the time.
Actually, man, in the NFL, the kicking – special team has never been better than it is right now. But, at the college level special teams execution, there's some things to be left desired. But if you look at South Carolina, though, where Beamer ball, and they were successful with it, and that's part of why they got their win on Saturday. And so, you look at Baylor last year. I mean, a big part of what they did and why they're successful was complementary football and special teams. And so, I don't know, man. There's just some teams that – it's not great to your point, but, man, it makes a world of difference if it's really good or if it's really bad.
I just want, more available good kickers, good punters, and good long snappers. And if you want to go and hold, go do that. But it kind of surprises me. And I know, it's hard to get a kid to learn to long snap because it seems like a non-glamorous position. But if you want your kid to get a scholarship at a pretty cool deal,
absolutely,
have him go learn a long snap.
Is that not why Ross Matisic from Baylor's in the NFL right now? He learned a long snap, I believe, and he's now playing for the Jaguars, which You know, it's not a bad route to get into the league. But you're right.
Weeks has been in the league for what, a decade and a half?
Jonathan Weeks has been for like 12 years with the Texans. But I mean, there's a path there, but it's just not the sexy path to your point, Paul. But yeah, Weber State, that was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that, and I don't know that we will for quite some time.
All right, now
By the way, I got to mention. When we were talking about the rankings, I was just throwing out the example of, like, I'm sure it's happened. There's, like, one team that drops out, and then you actually gain a team. This week that happened.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
I
didn't even realize that when I said it, but this week that happened. Two SEC
South
teams.
Carolina and LSU popped in. Yeah.
Wow. Anyways.
Clemson won their 38th consecutive home game, setting an Atlantic Coast Conference record. It was 27-21 over Syracuse. The Orangemen were unbeaten coming into that game.
Man.
I believe they're just the Orange now.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But yeah,
Syracuse.
That's some interesting stuff going on right now with the quarterback spot. Carolina, what ended up unfolding there, seeing Cade Klubnik coming at the end of the game. He's not why they ended up winning. Like, he just didn't play as badly as DJ did. I mean, that was really all it was. DJ played terribly and was just not good. Syracuse, really a blown opportunity there. They played well, and I thought that they were going to pull off, the win there for a while. But yeah, DJU did not have a great day at all. Eventually they go to Klubnik, and he just manages the game well enough to not screw it up, basically, their comeback efforts. And yeah, Dabo and company lucky to get away with that one.
Will Shipley.
Man,
that's why they won. Pretty much why they've won the last 2 weeks is that he is getting just better and better and better and better. And I really wish that DJU would have had that game 2 weeks ago.
Of course, yeah.
But he's not going to lose his job because I don't think Klubnik came in. The way Dabo described it is like sometimes Steph Curry goes 2 for 25, and you just have to sit him down for a minute. That's what he said about DJU. We'll see what happens down the line, but I do think that it's going to be interesting in the offseason next year when Cade Klubnik has another year under his belt. And
yeah, I don't think he's quite all the way ready to be the guy. I think most Clemson fans would tell you that as well. But, like, they didn't need him to be the guy again. Like, they just needed him to come in there and not throw the ball to the other team like TJU was doing, and they were going to be fine as long as, the rest of it stayed intact. And, yeah, Will Shipley's tremendous. He was a 5-star for a reason, and he's living up to that billing every single time.
They scored 2 touchdowns almost immediately after Klubnik came in, and I'm thinking, oh, my God. And then I look, he's 1 for 2 for like 9 yards. Shipley had the long run, and the defense started to make.
Over. Yeah.
Also, a late game, not late game, but UTSA and Jeff Traylor and UNT, 27-24. Frank Harris leads a 75-yard drive late in the game, throws a touchdown pass with 15 seconds left, and the crowd inside the Alamo Dome exploded. They were packed inside the dome. Great win for Jeff Traylor against a staff that we have a bunch of great friends, Phil Bennett and many others up in North Texas. Here's an interesting random, though. Minnesota got blown out. But their running back, Muhammad Ibrahim, the way he pronounced it on his, and I went up there, was Ibrahim.
Is it?
I think you're talking about the guy that may be from Pittsburgh.
No, I thought it was Mo Ibrahim.
Maybe I'm just pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have the pronunciation wrong. I got on the audio clip of him. He goes, I am so-and-so. That's entirely possible that I'm wrong
from Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, he rushed for 100 yards, 15th consecutive game. That's the most by any running back in the country in the last 25 years. 15 consecutive 100-yard games. Is that because the game, there's more rushing yards as much now as ever before? Yeah. Maybe not like back in the days of the wishbone and option.
But I would think
that's a long time.
You've got running, but you have a lot of rushing yards, but people aren't. There's not Earl Campbell's anymore where it's Earl,
Tony Dorsett, Rozier, others.
Well, they spread the ball around a little more.
Yeah, okay.
This year, 132, 130, 202, 103, 127, 102. That's
15
just
consecutive.
This year.
And so that's a record, or that's the first time in 25 years, the most by any running back in the country in a quarter of a century. That blew my mind when I saw that. And, you would have thought somebody would have had that kind of a run before. We will talk Jaden Daniels and LSU and with Mike Scarborough and the win. Brian Kelly now. How do you like me now with what he did in that win against Ole Miss? That was, in the second half, they were dominant in that game. Absolutely dominant in that game. My games. This week's polls that you guys were referring to are just proof when the playoff is expanded, there has to be a computer point system to figure out the rankings and seedings?
I'm not opposed to that. I think that they should take the committee out of this as much as they can. I think that the committee should be there to kind of discuss certain parts of it and maybe make a poll of their own that goes into the computer system. But I think that you need to take human agenda out of this as much as you possibly can.
I need you to hold on to what we're talking about here because I got to follow up on the Ibrahim or however he pronounced the thing. You do realize that that stretch is over 3 seasons, right? Because he only played in 1 game last year because of an Achilles injury.
Oh, yeah.
He had that first game.
So that starts to make sense now a bit more.
Yeah.
He played in 1 game last year, so that's actually going back to 2020, that streak where
I heard 3 of them are against Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm sure that they probably are. But, yeah, if you go all the way back to the Outback Bowl, which was a win in 2019, the 2019 season against Auburn, he had 140 yards. Then in 2020, played in only 7 games, had 100-plus in all 7 of those games. Then 2021 played in 1 game against Ohio State, had 163 and 2 scores, and then every single game this year. So that's not just impressive to have that many 100 and several 200-plus yard games, but he's stretched that out over like 3-4 seasons now at this point. Injuries and missing games and time, like that's incredible if you really think about it.
Yeah, you'd think he'd come back from an injury, might get 6 carries for 63 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
But circling back to what you're talking about, I think this year is a perfect example of why there needs to be an expanded playoff. I think when you see Clemson staring down the barrel of undefeated, and they'll be deserving if they win every single game on their schedule, like they should probably be expected to. But I also don't know that they're a top 4 team in the country necessarily. If you want to make the argument for them, that's cool. But I think that there are other teams that might be on their level or close to it, and that's why I think that instead of just having the 4 teams where it's like Clemson may or may not be great if they're undefeated, like they'll deserve to be undefeated. They'll deserve a spot. But I think there's others that might be as good who maybe aren't perfect that will have an opportunity now as well in an expanded playoff, and I think that will be good.
How about this argument? And I've always wanted a playoff back 25 or 30 years ago. How about looking at it the other way? Because there seems to be perhaps 1 or 2 dominant teams, and I know Ohio State's putting up a lot of points. They have Penn State this week. They haven't beaten anybody in the top 25 that I know of. We had that staff I think, on Friday. How about maybe there's no need for I'm not just look at no need for a playoff because Georgia-Alabama winner plays Ohio State.
Yeah, that's also taking away the opportunity for somebody to. But when you whittle it down and say all that, then you're taking an opportunity away for them to lose. If you take away an opportunity for them to lose, of course they're going to have a better shot.
Yeah.
So that's what the playoffs about giving other teams opportunity. But it's also giving these elite teams a chance to lose.
They already get that chance.
But they get another chance to lose.
Now you get 2 chances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So give them another chance to lose. So give it a chance to have a different matchup.
You think it's going to be harder to just beat that one team in the semifinals that you see every year in the semifinals versus having to beat Tennessee in Knoxville to get to that semifinal?
Yeah.
Like that's Oregon. I mean, there's plenty of teams out there right now that you can make an argument are playoff deserving or deserve some love. And I don't think it's just Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. I think that Tennessee, I think that Michigan, I think that TCU, I think that Oregon, I think Oklahoma State.
Yep.
I think there's a number of teams that deserve, as of right now, an opportunity to have a chance and a crack at the playoff. And in the current system, they won't get that. Even if there's a 1-loss TCU who's been through hell in the Big 12, drop 1 game and they're probably toast, right? But drop 1 game, and I understand like every game matters, but we've kind of shown that for only some it really does, not for everybody. So at least this way that, every game still pretty much matters, but there is more of a mulligan across the board so that a team like a TCU isn't just ruled out immediately with 1 loss because it's not to Georgia or to, whatever SEC school you want to name.
I am pro college football playoff expansion. I just wanted to look at it the other way.
You're right, though.
But as an option. And so I'm glad that they're expanding it. I don't know if they should go past 8 or 12. But, again, that's just me. I'm just glad they're doing it. When we come back, Robert Allen, I texted him Saturday evening after Oklahoma State. I kind of was, how the hell did they win that game? Curtis Quillen of Channel 6 here in Waco, he responded to a Twitter a note that I put up. And Robert Allen's next on Oklahoma State's win at home against Texas. and his thoughts from the sideline perspective and in the postgame. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI, Central Texas Marketplace, and Rob Maxey, Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff and partners are amazing at what they do. And what you go and get an MRI for is two reasons. Well, one reason, something inside your body hurts, and it hurts so much that perhaps even an x-ray didn't find it, or all the testing they could possibly do. So something's going on wrong. If it's a torn ligament, or if it's something in your abdomen that's not a muscle or a ligament, but something that's stirred up inside there, they're going to find it. They're going to find the evidence of why you can't sleep, why you can't function, why you can't walk, why you can't not kind of just have a few minutes of without pain. Ideal MRI also is going to save you tons of money. Average MRI is about $1,100. $1,100, so some are higher. $497 or less at Ideal MRI. It's worth the drive if you're around Texas to come to Waco. IdealMRI.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at Baylor.edu/alumni.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Thank you very much for being here every day, whenever you are. We appreciate it. And this is 365 Sports. Robert Allen, I sent him a text, as I mentioned, Saturday evening, and I said, what and how? Wow, Gutty. And he joins as sideline reporter for Oklahoma State. Robert, what did you think was going to happen? It was 17 Texas. They had Bijan and Roshan and all that. It was a weird day, but did you feel like the Texas was on the verge of popping them open?
Well, I mean, I thought it was possible. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of weapons, and but I knew one thing, and I'm not just saying this. I mean, it's real easy. Oh yeah, guy's a sideline reporter for Oklahoma State. He's going to homer the crap out of this. The one thing you know about this group, and they had a lot of adversity. I mean, there were several injuries during the game on the side. I'll give you, for instance, because you guys are familiar with this kid, John Paul Richardson. You know, it's Bucky Richardson, the former A&M quarterback's kid. And he went out in the third quarter, and he was a key for Spencer. He was kind of the crutch receiver or the go-to guy across the middle to move the chains. I mean, he converted a lot of third downs during the game, he and Spencer. And he goes to the locker room, and I knew he'd been cramping up because I knew they'd been working on him on the sidelines. And I go over to the head trainer and I said, "Hey, Scott, what's the deal?" He goes, I think he's out. I mean, he's got really bad cramping. We're going to IV him. And, you know, when you IV a guy in the second half, I mean, if you IV him at halftime, that's the other thing. Golly, the weather pattern for this season. I mean, and I'm sure it was this way for Baylor Saturday with Kansas. I mean, it was on the turf. It was in the 90s on Saturday here. That's not usual for this time of year. I mean, that's pretty warm for this time. Anyway, to finish the JPR story, he goes in and I guess they got a bag of IV in him, and he said, "Hey, take this out. I'm good. I'm ready to go." And grabbed his helmet, came out, and when I saw him, I went back to the trainer again. He says he's good. So that's not something we're going to keep him out. If he says he's hydrated, if he says he feels okay and he's not cramping. And I mean, he made 3 huge catches, 2 on the drive to tie the game, and 1 on that got him a first down before Bryson Green caught the Spencer pass and went 41 to get the lead. Good example. I mean, then there were some guys that disappeared, didn't come back. Hunter Woodard, starting right guard, we never saw him again. In fact, I didn't see him in the locker room after the game. And Dominic Richardson, the running back, he was out. So now you've got 2 freshman receivers playing a big role. You got a redshirt freshman running back in Jaden Nixon. You got a freshman running back in Ollie Gordon that they're having to play a key role. Your offensive line, you've got a guy playing guard that hadn't even practiced at guard in a couple of weeks. And he's one of those 6-man type offensive linemen. He can play either tackle, either guard, but he hadn't been at that position for a while. And then Mike Gundy, and I asked him today, I said, "What the heck are you grabbing me for during the game?" But he grabbed me in the fourth quarter, and he pointed out at the kickoff team, he goes, "There's 8 guys out there that haven't played." Mm-hmm. And he was right. Because, you know, once you start filtering through your depth and your 2 deep on either offense or defense, those guys, once they're out, you got to replace them on special teams, you know, most of the time. And, they're running down the kickoff with 8 guys that really hadn't played. So it was pretty crazy. But that's the one thing about this group and the culture that's been built here is they won't quit. Now they might get their butt kicked, but they're gonna fight down to the end of the game. They just don't. There's a no give up mentality. I mentioned something off air to our guys upstairs. I said, guys, this could be the Alamo, and these kids would still fight. I mean, and they'd still think they had a chance, until the last Cowboy in the Alamo's dead. They're going to keep playing. So it was one of the guttier efforts I've seen out of an Oklahoma State team. I've seen a few. This one certainly goes down as one of the guttier efforts.
Robert, they are going to have to move. Some of these guys might be out a couple. You never know with injuries how these things linger and all that. Do you think this week was a testament to the fact that they can withstand that? Or does it make you nervous that they will have, there's a lot of guys that just aren't going to play and then people shoved into roles that they have to play 4 quarters?
It's kind of cyclical because there were 4 or 5 guys in street clothes on the sidelines. Brock Moore, defensive end, they shut him down because of plantar fasciitis. And, after a week or so, there's probably a good chance he goes again. Braden Johnson at wide receiver, hamstring, they shut him down. So we see what he looks like this week. Probably the biggest one, and we won't know till later in the week, is Jason Taylor, who made the 2 interceptions and had the one. And I saw the video. I mean, I saw the video on the play. It looks terrible. It's one of those, oh my God, he tore his knee up. And, I do post game basically in the locker room, except after a game like that, they've got that music cranked up. So I've got to take them out in the locker room lobby. I came back in and I didn't think Jason Taylor wasn't going to talk to the media because injured players, they don't do that. And here he comes out of the training room with a trainer and he's walking and I'm like, are you okay? He goes, yeah. I said, well, you want to talk? He goes, oh, I do want to talk. And I said, okay. And then I looked at the trainer he goes, I think we dodged a bullet. So I think there's a sprain or hyperextension or something at work there, but there are structurally the knee's okay, which is a big deal because even if he can't play this week, you get him back, the next week for the rest of the season. He's kind of the mother hen back there with all those young kids in the defensive backfield. But you should get some guys back to set this game out. I think there's going to be some guys that'll continue. They'll continue playing. Joe Michalski, the center, sprained his other ankle, but he stayed in the game. I thought he was out. They had the third center taking snaps again or snapping the ball, and Michalski said, no, I'm good. Let's go. And Preston Wilson, the original starting center, was suited up for an emergency. I saw him go over to Dickey, the offensive line coach, say, hey, I'm ready. Put me in. So, again, guys, I think you're going to get some bodies back. But there's no doubt there'll be some bodies from this game that won't make it to Manhattan. And I was listening to it on the way back from Stillwater to Edmond, where I live, and it sounds like K-State's kind of got a little bit of a mass unit going on up there too. So we'll see. I'm sure the guys in purple will have enough to play, and I'm sure the Cowboys will, and we'll see what happens. It's been crazy.
Well, that's great to hear about Taylor because that looked awful at the time. And you talk about going from a moment of elation to just the complete opposite feeling in like 10 seconds. That's what that was. So that's great to hear. Oklahoma is, the song says where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, Robert, but it seems like a lot of people learned the state of Oklahoma was windy on Saturday. How much was that like in play? And in particular, looking at Quinn Ewers and his performance, 19 of 49, multiple interceptions, had some touchdowns as well, but just being down there, kind of the atmosphere. What did you see from Texas quarterback and his struggles on Saturday?
We talked about this in our pregame. There are a couple of things. You guys have been to our yard.
Yep.
It's unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's first of all, it's east-west. It's not north-south. That changes some things a little bit. In fact, it was the coin toss and the start of the second half had a heck of a time. Which way should we go? Because it looked like it was a crosswind. And then here's the thing: inside the bowl, there's a lot of swirling areas. In fact, we had a kicker. Well, it was Dan Bayley that kicked so many years for the Cowboys. Dan came in here and And as a project, I think for class, but it was going to help him too, he charted wind direction in the stadium because there's a bunch of swirling areas where you get different wind patterns because of just the layout of the stadium. And so, yeah, it's crazy. It's weird in there. When the wind is really blowing, it can be really weird. You think it's going one way and it's actually going, the other way. Do I think that played with Quinn Ewers a little? Sure. I think the pressure that OSU put on him, Trace Ford had one of his better games, and when he gets cranked up, he had a pass deflection. Lacey had a pass deflection. They were getting in his grill a little bit. And then let's remember with Quinn Ewers, he's just a pup. I mean, he didn't play a senior year at South Lake Carroll. He goes to Ohio State and I think got 2 snaps in his year up there. And now he's even had some injury problems, at Texas. So he's really started that may have been his 4th start. It was his first true road start. He was at the Cotton Bowl for the OU game, but that's not a road game. That's a neutral site. So this was and the walls had to feel. I've had players from other teams tell me sometimes in that stadium you feel like Indiana Jones and the walls are coming in. And I imagine he probably had a little bit of that on Saturday. Now, the real question is, and I heard this, I've heard several people ask this, why did Sark get away from the running game?
Absolutely.
And there's no doubt OSU made, and Mike Gundy talked about it at his news conference today, they were getting gashed by the counter play in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
They came back and they changed some gap responsibility. They put an extra man down in the box. They played the counter much better in the second half. But even then, here's the other thing that they didn't really throw to Bijan Robinson, and they've been throwing to him a lot. I mean, half their receptions had been to running backs, him and Roschon and tight ends, and then half to the receivers. And they did hit the tight ends quite a bit, but they didn't throw much to the running back. And I kind of wondered about that too. But at the end of the day, OSU defended what Texas tried to do in the second half, limited Texas to a field goal, and then they missed one. Those are their only real scoring opportunities. I'm not sure they really got in the so-called red zone at all. OSU just did a good job of defending the second half and took advantage of some big plays because OSU didn't do a lot of scoring in the second half. It was 31-24 to half. So, OSU scored 17 points, I guess, in the second half. Texas scored 3.
Yeah. Bijan had 1 catch, 41 yards and a touchdown. He's as dangerous in the flat as he is carrying the football, whether it's around the edges or not.
Yeah, and Smokey, that was in the first half. So why don't you throw him a few passes in the second half? I mean, now again, that's Texas' problem. That's not Oklahoma State's. And I mean, and rightfully so. I've listened today around to some of the radio and even had my own show, and about half the credit for the win is going to Oklahoma State, half the blame for the win is going to Texas. And let's be honest, in any game, unless it's just a whitewash and it's not competitive, but in any competitive football game, there's blame to go one way and there's credit to go the other. I mean, that's always going to happen. So, but with all the adversity, all the injuries, Spencer Sanders is still playing. Now, he wasn't as curtailed this last week as he was the week going into the TCU game, but Spencer Sanders is not 100% healthy. And let me tell you something, that dude, his teammates would follow him they'd go to hell and back with him and not complain because he's come so much farther as a leader even than he has a player. Because there was a while here that I was kind of, but no, man, he's their guy. And I didn't realize until I heard Sark say it, but when the field was stormed at TCU, I was just trying to get my big butt off the field. I didn't want to get caught up. And I'll be honest, I told my wife when I got home, I swear I think I knocked over 2 or 3 co-eds, and I really didn't mean to, but I wanted to get the heck out of there. And Sark says he's watching on TV, and the offensive line circled Spencer and ushered him through the field storming. He goes, Sark said, I've never really seen anything like that. That tells me a whole lot about him and how his guys feel about him. And I would agree with it.
Robert, thank you. Incredible finish for Oklahoma State. Tough loss for Texas. They've now dropped twice in the Big 12, 3 overall. Thanks
now,
for your
you
time.
guys, come on now. You guys aren't crying for Texas now, are you?
No,
absolutely
not.
Okay.
Robert, you obviously don't watch our show.
Yeah. No, I do. I just said that. That was facetiously. And here's the other thing. This is interesting. I mean, and maybe you guys will be counted as a rival. But when the commish last week said that Oklahoma and Texas are going to stay through 24, he said the schedules will be made and they'll cater to rivalries. So Oklahoma State's already been told they're going to play Oklahoma the last 2 years. So this year Norman, next year Stillwater, and then the last year Oklahoma State will go back to Norman for the final time. But there's no guarantee Oklahoma State plays Texas again, and certainly may not ever play them in Stillwater. But I wondered, with you guys, I would think you guys would want every shot you can get at Texas before they walk out.
I got a feeling. I got a feeling that game will remain the same. TCU will remain. Yeah. They'll play them, and I hope that the Oklahoma State series is not interrupted because I really love the games.
So I can see why Texas would not want the Oklahoma State series to continue, but I think the Texas schools will have to keep playing each other.
Houston's going to get Texas, you would think.
Yeah.
They better get them, and they better get them at home before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Robert, nice win, gutty win. Thank you, buddy. Separation kind of at the top because TCU's 4-0, Oklahoma State, Kansas State 3-1, and then, as he said, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, who's going to be right behind TCU? And, of course, TCU right now unbeaten. Steve, Frog fan on the text line. He's still not sold on his Frogs. You need to be. They're 7-0. Okay, they're really good. They're very, very dynamic. They're electric. And I'm going to tell you something. They're deep, too. They're really, really deep. And, my God, no lead or deficit bothers them against Oklahoma State and or against Kansas State.
Yeah, they are a team that doesn't get fazed by much. I think for Baylor fans, Kaz Kazadi probably has something to do with that mentality. I think that certainly plays into it. I think Sonny Dykes and just his different approach to what those players have been used to. I think we've heard that now mentioned plenty of times as far as being a factor in their success so far and just the enjoyment level that they're having. But, you basically have to kill them and make sure they're dead or they will rise back up and come back to bite you. Really. And I do feel like there is reason to kind of wonder just how good they are. But, I will say, they've got the group of playmakers, whether it's a Quentin Johnson, who didn't even have a great game on Saturday. Compared to what he's been doing the couple weeks prior, that wasn't anywhere close to his best game. Which the group of backs they have, obviously what Duggan's able to do, both with his arm and with his legs. Jared Wiley at tight end. There's a lot to like about how explosive they can be in the big plays that they can pop. And, at the same time, however, there is that little caveat of, but who have they played as far as the quarterbacks that they've faced, right? And I think that that's fair. I think that that's fair to wonder if K-State had Adrian Martinez available for more than 30 seconds, would that game have turned out differently? If Will Howard doesn't get hurt, does that game turn out differently? And that's just the K-State game. They didn't lose just one. That was twice, their quarterback who was having, Howard had an effect in the game. Martinez wasn't around long enough. But you know what I'm saying.
Howard was playing well.
Howard was playing great.
Yeah, he was playing well.
He was playing great. They were up. But, he gets hurt. And then the musical chairs continued. But yeah, they've had some very fortunate luck when it comes to opposing quarterbacks. And I don't know if that can, maintain the rest of the way. But, regardless, luck's part of how you get to have a special season, quite frankly. That's how it goes. Baylor last year had a little bit of luck along the way to be able to win close games at the end. So however it gets done, it gets done. But, yeah, they definitely have a horseshoe in their back pocket right now. But they also deserve credit for being dynamic and playing really well and playing, as a complete team.
They have Duggan, who's playing really well. They have Miller, and then they have DeMarcado. They have Quentin Johnston, who's fantastic, and we've discussed him, had him on last week. They have
Darius Davis,
Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, and one of the best defensive backs in America. Darius Davis, who's their electric type player, get the ball in his hands in space. All right, so that's a little bit with Oklahoma State, Texas. We've discussed TCU and much more, including the Big 12 with Baylor's win against Kansas. When we come back, Dave Aranda today, media conference. We have about 3 or 4 comments from him, including him saying, we have an opportunity to be who we were when it was 28-3, or be who we were when we were hanging on 28-23. A comment from him on that and more. This is 365 Sports. Last night, cooked myself a bone-in ribeye. I didn't do it on the grill. Just didn't want to deal with that. Like a lot of people, I have that Ninja. That thing's amazing, by the way. If you don't have one, it's a great Christmas gift. I just gave him a commercial. So I just kind of put the baked potato in the oven, and then I put the steak in the Ninja, put it on broil for about 8 to 10 minutes on each side. It was phenomenal, delicious and tasty. I get all of my bone-in ribeyes. I get all of my beef products, all of it, from Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. You see the tailgating going on around McLean Stadium. Baylor's on the road the next couple of games, but when it's back, a lot of the products, tri-tip and brisket and sausage and chicken and much more, comes from Waco Custom Marketplace. They're Baylor family, and also a place that has a bakery as well as a butcher shop and all the knickknacks you need when you walk in the door. Kind of from Rotel tomatoes to pasta, from baked bread fresh every day to maybe even some sort of like treats. They have it. You want Norwegian salmon? They have that as well. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool,
full tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
They'll run the speed option. And Drones is in for 6. It started to look like a speed option, then it looked like quarterback power right behind Quaylen Jones.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour includes from a portion of Dave Aranda's weekly media session. It's over on the campus at Baylor, and we'll kind of dig into it a little bit. Also, Joey McGuire had an opportunity to sit down and visit with him one-on-one. We'll have that today at 4:30. And Mike Scarborough on LSU's huge win and where they are now with Brian Kelly after the win against Ole Miss at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. So, you want to say something?
Yeah, I really liked that package with Drones. I
that
loved
was
him,
nice.
Using him on the goal line on a couple of carries, letting him get some action, and he's a big dude, man. Like, let him take the, hits at the goal line. I mean, use him, and I liked that they did that, and I was also going to say that could have waited till we get into Joey, but it's not a big game at all for Tech. It's not Saturday night, a blackout, Patrick Mahomes being honored. The list of things that I saw this morning as far as them hyping this game up. Baylor's going to be walking into something coming up on Saturday.
It is going to be either you come in ready to play or you will have your brains run out of Lubbock, because that you kind of get that in that feeling, the intensity that Lubbock will have. And you know what? If Baylor is who they are, they'll go in there and try to see what they have. I have no idea. Right now, I would think that the home field advantage, like a lot of games in the Big 12, not all, is probably going to be the difference, although I said that, and I fell for the Texas in a run and then lost in Stillwater. So, Dave Aranda earlier today, they were up 28-3. They ended up all of a sudden looking up 28-23, and they had to drive the length of the field to put the game away, and Richard Reese had a lot to do with that. And he was talking about his team yet again, that sometimes can be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I felt, where you look at that first half and that third quarter in particular, you have our team, and you could see kind of what we could become and then maybe what we've been. And I think in all of it, it's our choice, It's a choice we have to make, and I think it starts like today. I think attending class. I think taking notes. I think, being on time for your learning specialist. All of those things. I think the hard choices that you can make consistently put you in a position for easier things down the road. I think the easier your choices are.
So, I'm going to say this. He brought up some things that even weren't football related. And he's kind of talked about this team at times maybe being a little bit immature. And you wonder if they're still fighting with that. It's a little bit late to be dealing with that in the season, in my opinion.
I think there's some major chemistry issues. I think there is a player on this team, I don't know if you saw it, who we're a big fan of. Jackson Player had a little tweet after the game on Saturday that was kind of one of those that you go like, is everything okay here? Like, it was just a little off comment that you kind of get when things aren't going exactly the way that people want them to be going. So that, to me, was just red flag, and especially after a win. an even bigger red flag. And I think just like that kind of, to me, was just like all that stuff I've been kind of wondering about and feeling about, not in particular with one player, but in general. I do think that's there. I think it's very clear that it's there. I think it's obvious that it's there. To what degree, how rampant, what have you, I don't know. But I think there's very clearly some chemistry issues here, guys, in some areas. But yeah, that's not helping matters. And I think that's why, he's talked about those things right there, talking about just going to classes and doing, study work. And he's mentioned that off and on at, various times as well. It hasn't always been on the field. So yeah, I think in comparison to when you had guys that you probably didn't have to worry about as much, your Jalen Petries and your Terrell Bernards, who kind of just knew the deal and knew the grind and knew what it took, you didn't have to probably worry about that as much. But I think with this team, it's a constant struggle every single week, and it's something that's just always there, and they're always battling, and it shows up on Saturdays to some extent, and that's why this team, entering the month of November practically at this point, is pretty much kind of the same that they've been along the way as far as just being very helter-skelter, very herky-jerky in some ways, and not being that smooth operating machine that we kind of got used to watching last year.
Two of their losses are the two teams that are now under 500. West Virginia and Brigham Young's gone into a free fall.
We didn't talk about West Virginia, our little Big 12 wrap, but my goodness, that was
a
hey,
Texas
folks,
Tech,
West Virginia fans out there, I've said plenty of times, like, hey, I'm a fan of Neil Brown, but yeah, I'm kind of starting to be.
You said
be
this after the Baylor game, that you wonder if that win may have been, in a lot of ways, it may delay the inevitable.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I thought that was a win that, and I think even a lot of West Virginia fans probably on the chat room probably agreed with me, and that, like, yeah, you're like, boom, West Virginia won, what a great win. But if you really looked at that win, you go, that was a horrific Baylor loss, is what that was. More than it was a great West Virginia win. I think that's not me looking at green and gold. I think that's just watching a football game and seeing, like, that team should have won this game, but they made error after error after error, and that's football, and I get that. But, yeah, I think that had they lost – here's the deal. I don't know if that changes them being willing to pay his buyout and get him out of there sooner, but I do think it kind of for a moment made everybody forget of, like, kind of the direction this really was going. And then this weekend was a blunt reminder of, like, this is where it's at right now, and it's not really getting better with Neil Brown, and we kind of have to wonder, and I know West Virginia fans, many have been wondering already for a while of, like, is this going to turn a corner at some point? And Tech did whatever they wanted to against West Virginia, basically.
But back to Baylor for a second. They're the little tiny things that add up. They're not a team that is they've lost 3 games this year, right? So they're 4-3. In none of them have they gotten bludgeoned beyond belief, where it's like, well, clearly there's a talent deficiency between the team that beat them and them. That's not the case that's going on here. There is a detail deficiency, I think, and those are the little things that look. Oklahoma. You know why Oklahoma State won that game against Texas? The details
and the culture. Yeah, not that Texas is trying to, but Oklahoma State's kind of got that thing in a nice little.
But they've got a coach that's been there for nearly 20 years.
But the devil's in the details, right? Yep. And then you've got a coach who's just in his 3rd year, and then you've got a team that's trying to find itself, and there's guys that haven't figured out that that one little extra thing that you do kind of matters in the long run, especially when you're in a conference. And I think that maybe some of the younger guys have not quite realized this, or maybe the whole team. This is a conference where you don't have a gimme, so you can't
not be just the young guys, Paul.
Yeah, maybe all of them. No, and you just can't just roll out and half-ass your way through it, and then everything's going to turn out okay. And then maybe you forgot that the team last year didn't half-ass anything.
Well, and that's
they went right through.
Yeah, and I want to point out just a couple parts of this game in particular, but you're absolutely right, Paul. And I think that they're probably going to have to graduate some guys to kind of get back to where they want to be, honestly. Like, I don't think they're going to solve chemistry issues in this season. It's just, at this point, you've got 5 games left. How's it really going to change? But there are a couple of different sequences in this game that separate them from being who they are at their best and who they are at their worst. And so they go up 21-3. They force a punt. And what do they turn around and do? They're up 21-3 in the second quarter. Blake Shapen gets intercepted inside the 10-yard line, right? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You remember Blake Shapen's interception after they forced the punt. So instead of going up, 28-3, 24-3, 2nd and 9, he gets picked off at midfield. They turn around, they get a 3-and-out. So that's great. Hey, overcame the turnover. They go on a 15-play, 99-yard drive. Fantastic. It's 28-3. But then that middle 8 section, Kansas fumbles as they force the fumble, and they turn right around and have a chance to score right before halftime, and another interception after Ben Sims drops the touchdown pass. So instead of going up, 35-3, it's instead 28-3, and that'd be fine, except for they turn around and they fumble after an 11-play drive right out of the gates at halftime. And that's a 14-point swing right there that you could have had, and this game's over. And instead, it absolutely leaves the door wide open for Kansas to suddenly feel like, okay, wait a second. And then boom, that third quarter, and then fourth quarter happens, and Kansas is still in this game. So
you could feel it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you could feel it. And we're like up in the high level in the press box, but you could feel KU kind of go, man, this thing's not over.
The interception happened after a surefire touchdown drop. It happened at the 13-yard line of Kansas. The fumble happened at the KU 27.
Yeah.
And those happened back to back. I mean, that's a massive swing.
So one of the things I like to do when I compare, I'm trying to tell teams look at teams where they want to be. Tell teams, they don't listen to me. Look at teams where they want to be. So this is a Baylor team that won the conference last year and was a hair's breadth away, from being in the college football playoff if things, fell a certain way for them, right? So if you want to be a college football playoff team, if you look at the teams that are regularly in the college football playoff, that killer instinct is there even in their bad games. Like, look at Georgia this year when they almost lost to Missouri, right? They sleptwalked through the game, but when they took the lead, you know what they did?
They
choked them out.
Yeah, they did.
They just choked them out.
Yeah, you did. And they had a chance to dominate that game. Give Lance Leipold, by the way, in Kansas a lot of credit for getting themselves. The opportunity became they took advantage of it. And my God, 28-23, you go 3-and-out. I wouldn't have surprised me if Bean doesn't take Kansas down the field and win the game. Now, there's the Texas Tech staff, Joey McGuire, a lot of others who are on either some of the peripheral staff, some of the support staff, but there's obviously a Texas Tech Baylor flavor, just like Dave Aranda used to be an assistant coach, a GA and an assistant coach at Texas Tech. And it's an obvious question.
Has a degree from there.
Yeah, he does have his degree. We'll hear from Joey McGuire, and I asked him that same thing. Here is Dave Aranda on Joey McGuire and facing him for the first time as the head coach at Tech.
I have a lot of respect for Joey and a lot of the guys on the staff. And so, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I want them to win. I want them to have success, just not just versus us, but I want to see them successful. I know the type of people they are and what it means to all of them and everything. And so you want them to have their own success, just, not this Saturday.
That's as blunt as he can be, and that, Dave Aranda says it, you believe him. So he discussed Joey McGuire. The game, 6:30 Saturday night, Patrick Mahomes being honored. They'll have a blackout. It makes sense. Texas Tech, of course, had the win earlier this year, a huge win against Texas, and then also got themselves back in position by beating up on West Virginia. So what does Joey McGuire have to say about Saturday against Baylor? That is next. My conversation with the Texas Tech head coach is next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. They had, by the way, that Carter Blood Care, that blood drive that was very, very successful. They were there throughout the day and raised a bunch of money, a bunch of pints of blood. Ram Power Days continue at Alan Samuels. Why shop anywhere else? 2022 Ram trucks designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. Legendary award-winning trucks that give you first-class feel, luxurious leather trim seating, and those are options available to you. Exceptional legroom, storage plus surround sound video camera to make sure you're safe when you're backing up or anything that's around you. Also, you can drop by and see one of their client managers. AJ was the guy that handled me, and he was unbelievable throughout the entire process. Also, on top of that, the 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee, the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4XE. All of them have great discounts and opportunities. Just ask your client manager. And don't forget, they have the Charger and Challenger, Dodge Charger and Challenger on the lot. It's Alan Samuels. Ted Teague runs the mothership, Loop 340 at east of 84 in Waco.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what horses too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
4 receivers on the left side, bunched up. Now the throw goes left side upfield. It's caught by White. He's got it in Mountaineer territory at the 30. It's a foot race to the 15. Touchdown, Red Raiders!
Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire with me, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Texas Tech Saturday night at home against Baylor. Does this game mean anything more to you than anyone else you've played this year?
The one thing that I told the team today, because we practiced today, and I told them, I said, it can't. It's got to be that we're focusing on being 1-0 and it's our next opponent. That's what we try to do. Whenever you start doing that, you get out of whack with what you're trying to do as a program and what you're trying to build. So we're going to really focus on just being the best versions of ourselves and we've played well at home, and see if we can do it again.
So last year when this team, Texas Tech, of course, played Baylor, it was in Waco. I remember I texted you late in the week. I said, where are you going to be? And you said, probably as far away as I can be, because it was still kind of awkward and strange of how where you were and what you could do or not. And so now you're in the game. You're playing against the team you used to coach for. Is that different?
There's going to be, I'm coaching against some of my great friends. I mean, I love Sean Bayl and David Wetzel. Those are my guys. And, that staff, I mean, I usually shoot them a text, a lot of them after they win. And, as soon as I got off the field when we beat Texas, I had a bunch of texts from that staff. And so, that's a little different. And then, the majority of that roster I was a part of in some way or another recruiting, and so those guys, I love those kids, and they're such great kids. I know that's going to be a little bit different looking across the field and seeing them, and playing against them.
What has surprised you the most about your team this year?
I think, a couple things. The buy-in, they bought in really, really quick. And then, we it's not always pretty, but, our guys fight really hard. They play really hard. There's been times, especially on the road that we could have that the games could have got out of hand, but we didn't allow it to, and really actually fought back. We should have had a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter against K-State, and we were up at half against Oklahoma State. And so, these guys, they really come out and they play really hard.
So you spoke about a couple of teams you've played, and actually 2 or 3 or 4, and now you have Baylor. When you look at the Big 12, and you've been a part of it long enough, and you were around it because they used to recruit when you were in high school, but at coaching Cedar Hill, is this as deep as it's been, this conference right now?
Yeah, it really is, and there's a couple of reasons. I mean, I think the level of coaching is really good in the Big 12, but you're also looking at. I mean, I think COVID has a big effect on it too. I mean, whenever I look at Baylor's roster and knowing these guys, I mean, they got an old group. They got with Khalil back this week. 4 of their 5 O linemen, normally would not be playing college football. I think Ben Sims is a fifth-year guy. He would be, but you're talking about some guys that have played a lot of football and started a lot of football on that team, and on both sides of the ball, at linebacker and in the trenches. I mean, I know there's some youth in the skill, and but shoot, I remember. Christian Morgan is a freshman blocking a punt, in 2018, I think. And I think it was 2018. Yeah, 2018, and JaMychal Hastings scooping and scoring. So there's a lot of old guys on that team, and it's like what we played. I mean, I think when we played Oklahoma State, their 4 defensive linemen normally wouldn't be in college. So you're playing older guys, and I think that's what's creating some really good depth in the Big 12.
Has that also helped you?
It has. I mean, we're really young on offense. We'll have everybody back, minus maybe one that will declare, but we'll have everybody back. And then defensively, we have some guys. I think our defensive end will declare for the draft, and we have we got a safety and 2 linebackers that they normally wouldn't be in college football. So it has where we're not. Where we're really not as old, especially on the offensive line. We're pretty young. We start a lot of young guys, and trying to grow them up. And the last 2 weeks, we tried to go as fast as humanly possible and tempo the last 2 teams we played, and that helped the offensive line a lot.
Your quarterback room, we had discussed it with you during Big 12 Media Days with Shuck and then Donovan Smith, which we saw a glimpse of last year, and then, of course, this young man that looks really, really impressive in Baron Morton. You probably didn't know if you'd have to use all 3, but again, all 3 could play, and they've proven that. And Baron now has stepped up. It is the guy. Is he your guy?
We should get the okay for Shuck tomorrow. In fact, we're going to we'll probably be as healthy as we've been all year long. coming into that game. But saying that, I mean, our plan is to play all three of them, in some way or another. I mean, they all do things that give us a chance to win, and they're all three playmakers. So our expectation is to play all three of them.
Joe, you saw Blake Shapen, but mainly it was Gary Bohannon's team. And, of course, a couple of times when you were there, it was 3 years, it was Charlie Brewer's team. And there was some guys that came in, transferred in. It was Charlie took over. And then that was obviously a transition. What did you see, though, with Blake, who had the spectacular Big 12 championship game? He's now the quarterback. What did you see when you watched him in practice every day?
He has a lot of I don't know if the right word's moxie or what. I mean, like the dude, he's got something about him that's different. He's got a lot of confidence. Being a baseball player or a former baseball player, I mean, he can throw the ball at different arm angles. He's got a strong arm. He's got a quick release. I love Blake. I mean, he and Garrett were really close. Garrett hosted him whenever he came on his official visit, and man, just a really good kid. Man, he's a tough kid. I hated to see him go out against West Virginia. I think possibly that would have been probably a different outcome if he doesn't go out. But man, he's a great kid, tough competitor. I love everything about that kid.
Have you talked to Matt Rule? He and I have traded two or three times in the last week. Have you talked to him since the decision was made in Carolina?
Yeah, I sent him a text when it happened, and then I talked to him for a good while the next day, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to Cape May for a few days to decompress," and he said, "I'm gonna pick one of your games to come to." So, he might be here this weekend. If not, it'll be Kansas or Oklahoma. And, I talk to him all the time. I mean, he's one of my mentors, and, he's a big help. And so I wish the best for him. I'm hoping that he doesn't sit out a year. I hope he gets back into college football, because I think he'll make somebody a really good coach.
How did that affect Garrett?
It was tough, it was really tough from the standpoint he loves Coach. And, I just told him, I said, man, this is the nature of the business, and it's a tough business. And I said, but there's guys on that staff that are going to get other jobs that are going to be looking, what do you do every day whenever you walk into the building? Are you working your tail off and having a great attitude, or the other way around? And I said, if it's the other way around, man, then you're going to get a bad reputation. So you got to go to work. He was fired up that they won today. I know that on our family group text. He was really excited.
You seem to be, and you've always been such an incredibly energetic, positive, happy guy, but you seem to be maybe at peace as much as ever before. Is that true?
It is. I really love this place. I work for a great AD. They have shown how much they're going to support this program, and they want to be really good, and they've helped me, and anything and everything that we've asked for, they've done. And then the players, it's fun to come to work every day whenever you have a group like this that is really bought into what we're doing.
Joey McGuire with us, Texas Tech football coach. So when you're at night and you're winding down, is it a screened back porch that you sit and just watch everything calm down for the rest of the night?
Yeah. It's you can kind of open up the back porch, so it's enclosed, but you can slide the doors open, and right now watching, like we started right now, I don't know how much I'm going to sleep this week watching Coach Grimes in this Baylor offense, man. They're really running the football, and Richard Reese has become just a guy that just chews up yardage. So I'll be sitting on that back porch maybe having nightmares of what we're about to face.
You guys put up a bunch of numbers. You play hard. Sometimes when you hear about a team plays hard, that means they're not very good. But you guys are 4-3. You just manhandled West Virginia. Is that something, wherever you've been, that is a DNA of a Joey McGuire team is playing hard?
Yeah, that's the number one thing that we talk about, is that we're an effort-based program. And that what's happening is the guys that are playing their best, they're also practicing that hard. So it's translating into Saturday, which is really good because we're having more and more guys buy in. But, you know, I don't see how you can play this game without giving great effort. And, you know, I think you've seen that. You definitely saw it last year with the Big 12 champs of how hard those guys played. Mm-hmm. You know, in 2019, I go back to that group, how hard those guys played. And I always felt like my Cedar Hill teams played hard. And I just got lucky to be a part of staffs with Rule and Aranda to where that's such a fixture of how hard you play and the effort you practice with translates.
You know, Joey, coaches, once the season begins, you guys go into almost a bunker. Around town, yes, you're Joey McGuire in Lubbock. How often do you at all talk to opposing coaches? Like in high school, you probably could pick up the phone and call somebody. Do you do that in college?
No, not really. You know, I mean, I've talked to Sean a little bit. You know, I've talked to Wetzel, just, you know, seeing how he's doing, really kind of checking on Skylar. They're having a great year. You know, he's coaching at Denton Guyer, and so, but not a lot. You know, it's a little bit different. I think, you know, I usually, whenever I played, I mean, not usually, it was every week. When you were playing somebody in high school, you called them, you know, and kind of went over everything that was going on in college. That really doesn't happen. So, yeah, I haven't really talked to anybody that we've played.
How much do you love your license plate? Take 3.
Well, let me go ahead and tell you this. Me and our DB coach, Marcel Yates, he goes, every time you drive that car up here and I see the take 3, it makes me sick because we haven't created turnovers. And then, you know, we created 4 turnovers yesterday, and he goes, okay, you're okay to drive it today. And so, literally, and he was giving Debbie a hard time because Debbie got it for me for my birthday and the license plate. And he was like, Debbie, I think you've cursed us. And so it was good to create some turnovers on Saturday.
That's your defensive model. Last question. Saturday night in Lubbock, Texas. We all know that it's a place that at night especially, it's always a great place, a home crowd, but a night game, an evening game, Patrick Mahomes being honored, Baylor in town. Can you even try to describe what it might be like?
No, you know, it's funny. Cody Campbell, whenever we played who's on our Board of Regents and played at Texas Tech. When we played Texas and it was a sellout, he goes, I can't wait. I talked to him the night before, and he goes, I can't wait for you to experience the sellout and what Jones is like. And it was incredible. But last night I had probably 5 or 6 people saying, man, I can't wait for you to experience a night game in Jones, AT&T, and it being a sellout, you know, and Pat being back in town, you know, it's going to be a great crowd and a great atmosphere.
Joey, I appreciate your time as always. Have a great week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Joey McGuire, Texas Tech football coach on 365 Sports.
Baylor and Texas Tech in Lubbock on Saturday evening at 6:30. It will be geeked, lit up, whatever you want to say. Anything about what he talked about that you guys want to comment on?
Maybe in the next segment so we can catch up on the breaks.
Oh, now we care about that.
We'll
do. Be back, 365 Sports.
The wait is over. Richard Carr, GMC, has trucks that have hit the lot, SUVs as well. 2022 Sierras, Acadias, Terrains have arrived and are waiting for you to test drive today. XT4 and XT5 SUVs are also available for a test drive, and inventory is going fast, so get there now for the best selections. When it comes to the Sierra, they offer the best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, and a luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, and premium comfort. Maybe the exact truck or SUV you're looking for is not on the lot. Get on their inbound vehicle list and cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock, or let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. In business for 23 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, you don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Mike Scarborough around the corner covers LSU. They've now beaten Ole Miss 7 consecutive times in Baton Rouge. And so here's a stat for quarterback play. We'll get back to Joey McGuire's interview if you want as well. C.J. Stroud, Will Rogers, Drake May, only FBS quarterbacks with multiple games with 5 passing touchdowns this season. Nix had no such games in his entire career at Auburn.
Nope, but he's playing free and easy now at Oregon. Other than the one game he played against an SEC team this year, he's looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, Drake May is really good. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch, continue to get better for those who haven't watched him at this point, just because they're not necessarily top of mind, the Tar Heels. But, yeah, I think that that's a pretty impressive stat that have, Bo Nix, going back to that, I mean, if there's a game that I whiffed on massively, it wasn't so much because of what I thought about Oregon. I didn't go into the game with Oregon and UCLA thinking like, well, Bo Nix is going to screw this up. I don't even think that I mentioned him in talking about it. I just had more confidence in UCLA than I had any business having in them. I mean, that defense was absolutely atrocious. That was embarrassing what they allowed Oregon's offense to do. And now, granted, it was because Bo Nix and company were playing really well. But, I mean, to not get, like, any stops, show some fight. I mean, they could not stop Oregon to save their life. And if you actually look at the final score, you look at the points put up, like, get a couple of stops and you're actually in this game, but you couldn't get any. And, yeah, that's just – I had too much faith in DTR and Chip Kelly and company that they were going to go up there and, be ready to back up their ranking, and they just clearly weren't ready for what the Ducks were throwing at them. So that was a missed call on my part. But, yeah, a lot of credit to Bo Nix. He's thriving up there in Eugene and having himself a whale of a year. And, I don't know why it's so different than maybe what we experienced at Auburn, but perhaps just change of scenery is always good, and different coaching and just different mentality and being a year older and more experienced. But whatever it is, it's working for them. And they're a playoff team that you have to think about because of, just kind of the path that we see laid out right now. That loss on their schedule, it was bad, but granted, who it was against and when it was. And, like, that's the thing, too, I think about losses when we start talking about this. I think it's really unfair that – maybe not unfair is the right word, but I do think this is part of the issue with the college football playoff and only having the 4 teams is, like, if you lose a game, you're not necessarily ruled out, although depending on who you are, you might be. But especially when that game's like week 2 and it's against like a top 10 team from another conference and you're still kind of trying to find yourself a little bit that early on, like that carries the same weight as like a week 12 loss. And I don't think that that's right because teams change. Teams change for better or for worse over the course of a season. And so I think that, yeah, that has to handicap the Ducks' chances. But I think it also needs to be taken into account. That was like right at the start of the year against the number 1 team in the country and defending champion. And yeah, it was bad, but look at what they've done since then. So they're an interesting team to follow.
I think there's a case to be made for Oregon for that and for LSU. Look, LSU, like, you talk about a team that's changed. LSU's changed a lot. They've picked up some really good coaching really quickly over the last 6-7 weeks.
But they've lost twice.
They lost twice, but Oregon's just lost once. But
they and Utah maybe the 2 best 2-loss teams, and maybe I'm missing somebody. Yeah, no, LSU.
But they do change. But for the expansion of the college football playoff, that's what makes sense because a 10-2 LSU team, could get in to the college football playoff
and would deserve it.
And would deserve it
if they run the table after taking a couple early losses. Yeah.
That's why. The college football expansion, the playoffs, is not just about making sure or hoping a group of 5 team or whatever you want to call them, a non-Power 5 team gets in, or maybe others who win a conference title. It also gives not just a handful of 5 or 6 logos a chance to start poorly.
Well, look at
come back around and be a part of it down the road because you're a much different football team.
Because teams do evolve and they do change, absolutely. Look at Oklahoma State's 1 loss. I mean, freaking extras against a TCU team that's like borderline top 5 right now and unbeaten. I mean, should that really be like a heavy loss on their resume?
No.
And if it's it won't be the only one, obviously. Or, well, it could be because they could just run the table themselves and maybe go beat TCU in a rematch. And, like, if that was TCU's only loss, do they need to be kicked out of the playoff? Like, so no, in this scenario, both could probably make it and both would be deserving. And there's, plenty of other examples. But circling back and not making it all about the playoff, Oregon, though, is a team that, is in that conversation. I think they're in that conversation with, obviously, TCU being unbeaten and Oklahoma State and a variety of others. And I can't wait to kind of see how this whittles down, conference by conference here over the coming weeks because, we've seen some fun matchups already, but it just has the makings of a wild finish because it's already been a wild beginning. And, there's even uncertainty in the SEC. It's not just let's just put Alabama and Georgia in the title game. Like Tennessee's making it interesting. You know, others could pop up and make it interesting. LSU's better than expected. So, there's only a little over a month to go, but it's going to be a fun, 5 weeks until we get to the postseason.
Charlotte fired their head coach, Will Healy, after a 1-7 start.
That's not surprising.
Couple of Big 12 notes in the NFL. Breece Hall, possibly a severe, I haven't seen an update. He's out.
He's out.
Knee, ACL.
Out for the year.
Is having a nice little run, a couple of long runs, and then he's out now, unfortunately, from Iowa State star at the Jets. He's out. And then Sam Ehlinger will start the rest of the way as long as he remains healthy. And he's always been pretty healthy, a guy that's not afraid to put his chin in there. Matt Ryan benched. Sam Ehlinger will start the rest of the way, the former Longhorn quarterback. So there's a couple of notes from the NFL Big 12 related.
Yeah, Sam Ehlinger's been a lot better in the NFL than I anticipated him being. I just took him for a pretty good college quarterback who could go play, be a backup in the NFL or whatever, but didn't give it much thought beyond that. And, he's taking advantage of his opportunities. He's hung around. He's getting a massive chance now. And he's played, previously, obviously, but I just don't know how many people would have pegged him replacing Matt Ryan at any point in time. But so goes the guys who we've grown up watching the last few years, getting older and not being quite what they were. I mean, I think it's fair to say he's not quite Matty Ice these days. Those days are long gone. And so, a tremendous opportunity for Ehlinger, who
he's iced Matty.
If anything, yeah. But, great opportunity for Sam Ehlinger. I'm not a Texas fan, obviously, but I like him.
He's got moxie, which carries you a long way. I mean, he's not afraid of anything out there, and I think that carries you a little further.
I think he started to take some beatings, though. He could run over people. He ran for a lot of yards, and I think no matter how big, thick you are, or in his case, tough, I think he started to take too many hits. And, you could kind of see him, even though he had a hell of a career at Texas.
He was basically their offense.
Yeah,
I mean, it all ran through him, and so he had no choice but to have to, put it on his shoulders and carry the football as much as he was throwing it. But he did evolve and get better as his career went along and positioned himself to be where he is right now. And kudos to him for that.
All right, one stat on the Astros. We take the break, and Mike Scarborough, LSU, and their win against Ole Miss. The Astros entering the weekend had a chance, and they did. They have done this. This is now official, to eliminate the Yankees for the 4th time during the postseason. Now, I want you to think about this, how long the Yankees have been alive and how many years they've been in the postseason. Of course, they have 1 million World Series titles, not this year. They've done it now 4 times, because this is updated, 15, 17, 19, and 22. More than anyone in the history of the Yankees franchise, the Astros have knocked out the Yankees 4 times in the postseason, and they've done that in the last 7 years. Tied with Detroit, the combination of the Brooklyn and LA Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Red Sox. And they've done it in 7 years after all the years that they've been a postseason team. The Astros are on a mission. They look almost unbeatable. Philadelphia can pound the ball. Great win for them against the Padres. That ought to be fun. Today, Rangers introduced Bochy, by the way, their new manager.
It's going to be a really hard World Series for me to watch because I am in no way a fan of the Astros. And I, as a rule, just don't root for teams from Philly. And so I have to sit here and I don't know.
So wait a minute. You've gone from the Yankees series with the Astros, and you didn't like either one of them.
Bad.
So this one. Yeah.
There was no good for a Red Sox fan. There's no good outcome in that series. None. I mean, because the Astros only have 1 World Series to the Yankees 27. The Astros could get another one, but that's the best part of that.
The Astros are a battering ram.
Yeah, and they develop
their
they're just good.
So there's that stat. Garrett, thanks for saving it over. I was going to use it on Friday, but it's updated now. Bryce Harper with a huge home run to help the Phillies launch themselves into the World Series. They've kind of come out of nowhere.
They got the coolest crowds, and there's no doubt those Philly crowds are, as far as their reaction during this postseason and some of the clips that have come from that. It's been really cool to see that Harper homer, being one of the many highlights that it seems like we've seen from them playing at home. But Not a must-see for me, I'll be honest with you. The Rangers, I do think Bruce Bochy's a good hire. I think that's probably about as good as you could have expected them to do. So I'm curious to see how that goes. And I'm not an Astros hater because they were irrelevant to me growing up. They were an NL team. I didn't care about them in any shape or form. And even with the last few years being in the AL West and that the Rangers going back and forth with them, even though it's been very one-sided in Houston's favor for a while now, I still don't like they aren't that like it's not Cowboys Redskins to me. I know that for some Astros fans or some Rangers fans, it might be that way because you're both state of Texas, but I don't, and I never have viewed them that way. I just am kind of, it's whatever to me. So, this series between Philly and Houston should be some great baseball. But as far as rooting interest, either positively or negatively, I just really don't care.
Yeah, I think part of it was, so the Astros won in 2017 with the trash can. And then the Red Sox won in 2018 with the whatever they were doing.
They were cheating too.
Yeah, they were cheating too.
With whatever. They just glossed over that.
Whatever they were doing. I don't know what they were doing. Like, they didn't have a trash can, but they were, going back to a room that was occasionally open at Fenway Park and watching video. But whatever they're doing.
I love the days back when people just won or lost and it was not always drama about something.
I just get so, as a Red Sox fan, I get so irritated because that year I had so many friends of mine that were Astros fans. In Game 2 in Minute Maid Park, they called fan interference on what wound up being a home run, and the Astros fans think that that's what turned the series, even though in that very game they took the lead right after that. And I've carried this stupid torch, kind of like this UCLA thing, for a while now. I'd like to let it go, but I can't.
No, you can't. Who won the series?
The Red Sox did.
Okay, then stop. I get it, though. Your frustration. I get it, though.
I think it'll be a great series. Like I said, there's a tremendous, cast of characters and great players throughout both teams. So I think that'll be awesome. It'll be great baseball. I think the Astros will win it. If I had to bet money on it, I just assume they'll go. But, yeah, I'm just going to be pretty much a bystander, just taking it all in.
It's a World Series. I'm going to watch it. It's not like I'm going to be focused on exactly when the first pitch. I wish they would play an afternoon game. I know it's all about the ratings, the night, whatever. And even the World Series, I think the numbers are usually somewhat down.
What a run for Astros fans, though. I'll say that. I mean, what a run for them.
4 times in 7 years they've knocked out New York. They're trying to win another World Series, and they've done it this time on almost a mission, a revenge tour. All right, when we come back, Mike Scarborough, LSU, they're hot. Win against Ole Miss. He's next. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Let me tell you one thing about Dr. Petty. I hear and I discuss and I tell you all the time about testosterone. As you get older, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have issues with testosterone starts to go down. It's part of just getting older, part of father time, part of your body. 1 out of every 3.5 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. But he does more than that. Yes, he can also put you in a program to increase your testosterone level. Yes, if you feel like there's something missing, symptoms like your sex drive or sleep habits or energy, you're lethargic, he can get blood work for you. He can set that up, take care of it for you, get the blood work, get the results, and then if it's too low, put you in a program to increase your testosterone. But also he's a doctor who can help you with a lot of other things as well by seeing your blood results and seeing your other issues you might have. He can take care of you in that way. So give him a try. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Bayl Baylor, Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor, Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
From the 34, Daniels scans the field, going deep, corner, caught, touchdown LSU, Jeray Jenkins.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We brought up LSU and Ole Miss. We've discussed who's the best two-loss team in America, LSU, Utah. Maybe there's one or two in that conversation, but no question, Brian Kelly, after a kind of a rough start, has the Tigers playing really good football. They dominated Ole Miss. Mike Scarborough, Tiger Bait, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. What's changed, Mike? What's changed with LSU?
Man, it's hard to put a finger on it. There's still a lot of aspects of this football team that, you know, when you're used to seeing some strong LSU football over the years, you realize you're kind of doing it by hook or crook and duct paper clips. But I think he's getting the most out of this team that he can. I think what Matt House is doing defensively has been phenomenal. The changes they made at halftime, not only with the defenses they were calling, but also some personnel changes. And then when you combine that with the way Jaden Daniels has been playing the last several weeks. And Brian Kelly even says that, look, if you really go back and watch the Tennessee game, which was, a game that, everybody just thought it was the end of the world. He maintains that Jaden Daniels, if you look at what he did, it wasn't, he didn't have a bad game. But they were, got behind multiple scores, and you can't do that against Tennessee. And of course, now we're going to see the rest of the way how bad or good that, how bad that Tennessee loss actually is. If they take care of Georgia and run the gamut, and I said it on our postgame show Saturday night, is Tennessee on the verge of having a unbelievably magical year that is similar to the one LSU had in 2019, where they, get to this time of year and they just start believing and it starts snowballing. But, they've got some tough games coming up. And if they get that far to the SEC championship game, there's a good chance they're going to play Alabama again. And we know what happens when Alabama gets to play somebody a second time. And but again, the reverse happened to them last year when Georgia gave them a taste of their old medicine.
Mike, how much of this with Jaden Daniels is the fact that, look, sometimes for transfer quarterbacks, it's not just about being there in the spring and the early part of the fall, but it was in a quarterback competition, and it's just him feeling comfortable being where he is now and not worrying about losing his job every snap.
Yeah, and I think there might have been a little bit of him overcompensating to not make mistakes and not throw interceptions and holding on to the ball too long. So you have maybe a little bit of that, a little bit of not having a comfort zone with his receivers. And then maybe it's just all slowing down for him. But now that he's throwing the ball the way that he is, and you combine that with his demoralizing to a defense running, there's nothing more demoralizing if you get LSU in 3rd and 8 and he goes back and then just trots to the marker and gets the first down. I mean, he's done that at least 25 or 30 times this season. I mean, it's a regular thing with him.
Yeah, he's terrific. 9 touchdowns on the ground now for him at this point, over 500 yards, and then, putting up a lot through the air as well. What have you thought about the offensive supporting cast and how they've grown around him, Mike?
Well, and that's the other part of it, too. It's like you've had a makeshift offensive line. I think they've had 6 or 7 different combinations each week, or maybe we finally had 2 weeks in a row of the same lineup. When do you ever see, particularly at that level of college football, where your starting tackles are both freshmen, true freshmen? And Will Campbell was SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week after the week before he was in the hospital after suffering seizures. And I think Emory Jones is playing right tackle, which I think his natural position is guard. You're going to find that in December when they do the all-SEC freshman team, LSU's probably going to have 4 guys first team. The 2 offensive linemen, Campbell and Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, who I think might be the best player on the whole team. You guys know all about him from Texas. And Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son at tight end.
Mike, we know that there was some fodder, Brian Kelly, whether the accent or dancing with a potential, I don't know if it was a recruit or whoever, but, a lot of that was also just the anti-Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, and because Notre Dame is a national brand. I know LSU is as well. Is he now pretty much, he can run the town for a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think you and I have talked about it before. That whole accent thing, we were all there when it happened. That didn't register with any of us. I mean, we've been amazed lately about how stuff we're sitting in a press conference, the local media, how we come out of there and do our follow our reports, and then we look up on Twitter, and something that we thought was nothing is gone viral nationally.
Oh, welcome to the crowd.
Welcome to Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, the throwaway stuff with Mulkey 3 weeks ago with Griner. I mean, I couldn't believe it, how big that blew up. Now, you could say I wasn't paying attention and realize that was something that was going to blow up, but it did. But Kelly's the whole outsider, northerner, Yankee, Massachusetts born and bred, all that stuff, that just – the greatest coaches in LSU history are from parts of the country that are anything but Southern. Dale Brown from Minot, South Dakota. Nick Saban. I don't call West Virginia the South. That's the North. Came from Michigan State. Skip Bertman, a Jewish guy from Miami. I mean, the list goes on and on. Louisiana's a big melting pot. That's not an issue. Besides, you win football games, they're going to love you easily.
Well, I think people sometimes they use that stuff to forget that Brian Kelly is the all-time winningest coach at the most storied, program ever in Notre Dame. I mean, not to knock Alabama, but Notre Dame has the 120-year history. He's won more than anybody else there. People forget about that because he's kind of a dork sometimes. What
I don't get is everybody hates Notre Dame, right? If you're not a Notre Dame fan, you either hate them or Alabama or Texas. And in my case, you hate all three. So, so which is it? Because they say there's a Brian Kelly backlash, like how dare he leave Notre Dame for a school like LSU? Well, if you're a typical person that's not a Notre Dame fan and can't stand the fact that they've had their own TV contract on NBC, think they've gotten in a nicer bowls and playoffs when their team didn't deserve and played weak schedules most of the time. But now you want to flip the script and if anything, you should be giddy that a guy broke it off in their backside and headed down south.
Mike, you mentioned Harold Perkins. A lot of people are mentioning Harold Perkins right now. What are we talking about with him in terms of just how good he is and how good he can continue to be and get over the coming years?
I don't know how you can keep him off the field. We're all scratching our head. Last week Kelly was saying, well, when we do this, if we're going to keep him on the field, that means the Ojulari's not in the game. Well, look, I mean, B.J. Ojulari's going to be a high-round draft pick, but Harold Perkins is more devastating than him. And what does that say? Because Ojulari's a fantastic football player.
Yeah.
But for a true freshman who everybody that I saw that covers recruiting, who saw him probably at least once a month throughout his high school career in that area, that guys I know said that he was raw, was going to need a redshirt year. He might be a better running back than a linebacker. Now he's wearing number 40 like Devin White. And, man, the sky's the limit for him. And with LSU having problems with kickoffs, I'm like, man, I ran into the running backs coach, Frank Wilson, at a high school Friday night. I was out videoing some recruits. And I'm like, man, kickoffs. Well, I think he returned kickoffs. And I said, man, I said, he's actually the best running back on the team too. So if this kid stays healthy, he's absolutely amazing, devastating for a true freshman to come into a system like that. Because I know Matt House is hitting him with a lot of terminology, this and that. And usually a kid like that might swim, their head will swim and overthink things. If he's overthinking things, he's got enough held back that you don't even notice it.
Mike, they were blown out by Tennessee. We now obviously have even more confirmation about what the Vols are like with their win against Alabama in that crazy game up in Knoxville. Is this surprising to you, what you've seen?
Out of Tennessee?
No, out of LSU. I'm sorry, out of LSU.
Yeah, well, after that game, I was just kind of like, with the whole rest of the way, with what's on the schedule, I'm just not going to pick LSU to win, But then they go beat Florida in Gainesville, and then they beat Ole Miss. I don't know what to make of it. Now you see what Arkansas is doing. It's always tough to win in Fayetteville. We see what's happening with Texas A&M. Open date this week. Then Alabama is night, Tiger Stadium. It's going to be I've gotten hit for ticket requests. That's going to be another one that's going to be third-party ticket prices is going to be through the roof for that one. And you got UAB sandwiched in there in November. So I think he's ahead of schedule. I said 8-4. I think a lot of people might have been saying 8-4, but maybe really felt 7-5. Well, what happens if he does something crazy and upsets Alabama? All of a sudden, people around here are going to be talking 9-3. And believe me, with what he inherited, with 43 scholarship players, and then got a bunch of transfers from Sunbelt schools and a couple from Arkansas and some Sunbelt linemen and losing Mason Smith, your best defensive lineman, and a freak injury in opening defensive series of the Florida State game for the season. If it wasn't for what Heupel's doing at Tennessee, and if it holds up and he continues on that trajectory, you'd have to say Brian Kelly would be SEC Coach of the Year.
He's certainly not in the Jimbo category, that's for sure.
What's wrong with Jimbo? Jimbo's coaching up a storm. The players just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Well, Jimbo's running the same offense he did at LSU 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know who the AD, I don't know much about the AD and how much he's going to put his foot down, or if Jimbo absolutely knows he's got to do it. But it was always the issue when he was at LSU that it took up to 3 years for his quarterbacks to be anything that you thought they were going to be out of high school. And one thing I've said is, you want to talk about the closest thing to a Les Miles offense that drove everybody crazy here is what Jimbo does at A&M. So he's got to fix that. But they've got to be real worried about some of the high-profile kids that they have got in the program that are going to see the wheels coming off this thing and are going to get poached and putting feelers out there and start hitting the portal.
Mike, good stuff. Everything good with you? I know you had a doctor's appointment. Everything good?
All good. Just blood work.
All right, good. All right, man. Take care of yourself. We appreciate your knowledge and also insight. LSU not only beat Ole Miss, they made them like it, and a great win for the Tigers and Brian Kelly.
We may have to revisit this conversation in a couple weeks because they got Alabama after a break. LSU and Bama, and as Garrett can probably attest, that game's taking on a different tune as of the last week because prior to the season, you wouldn't have had that circled necessarily as far as I can't wait to see how this goes. And now based on Alabama's own issues and LSU being better than expected, I'm not saying you pick LSU to win this game, but it's at least more interesting, is it not?
No, I think it definitely is too. And I think this is one where both teams got a bye week. This week you got time to prep. And I think if you're any team across the nation, and from a fan's perspective or whatever, all of the Alabama stuff out there, you want everybody in the nation should be rooting for LSU because if they get that win, that's probably going to knock Alabama out of the playoff. I don't see how Bama could get back in if they get beat by LSU.
Be careful what you say about them. Be careful.
They defy all logic because
you need to watch where you're going tonight on your way home.
No, but what happens with Alabama? It seems like they could give you an excuse to get in the room, and then the guys get in the room and they're like, look, we just don't know how to do this without them. So we're going to put them in and go out there. Whoever the poor sap is has to go out there and regurgitate what they say. Go out there and
I said this, and I think it was during a commercial break. I said one of the biggest problems with college football is there are certain teams that if they're the possibility they're going to be out of the college football playoff, it's like, what? Yeah, what? And there's nothing wrong with it. Somebody else is better than them that year, and I really like Nick Saban, and but that. They could go into LSU and win that game by 25 or so. So we'll wait for that to happen.
If the expanded playoff, if there's a drawback, is that Alabama will never miss it, no matter. It's true. Ohio State will never miss it. Clemson will unlikely be to ever miss it. Notre Dame, if they just breathe, will never miss it. That is the downside to it. Is that there's more spots, but probably more of them are now locked up perennially by the same teams. But at least there's some new blood to at least flush in there, because otherwise we're just getting those same teams to their own group. So
the thing is
Alabama's not going anywhere, but at least there's a Tennessee that could jump in here and perhaps make it a bit more interesting.
Well, just look at a team like Michigan, who's now good again after years of being so up and down. They're a team that can contend for it. Now the goal for them is be 12th.
Yeah,
just be 12th, and I think it makes everything so much better. But I would like to see. Bama not be in it just for a variety, nothing anti-Bama, just for, variety is the spice of life, right? I also have a question for you guys. If we were on the college football playoff committee, say everybody here in the room was the committee, and we had to pick a spokesman, would any of us want that job?
No.
Because you have to go out there and say things that people are going to, because it's not like Kirby Hocutt and Gary Barta and all these guys who have had that job, all of a sudden walked into the room.
The guy was the first one, wasn't he?
Jeff Long.
Yeah.
But it's not like those three guys walked into a room and got dumber. And then when they walked out, they just said those things. They had to say the things that the committee told them to say because that's what they worked up. And you have to go out there and answer those questions. Be like, well, based on this and this and this, and I don't know. I would not want that job in a million years.
No, I don't know anything.
Why not? You don't have to say anything that makes sense, Paul. You just said I'll just go up there and talk about game control. Whip, job done. That's the thing. It's actually the easiest job because you don't actually
lose respect for myself. I think.
No, of course, but I don't think that Jeff Long looks in the mirror and probably feels that way.
Yeah.
So if you have a little bit of self-respect, you wouldn't feel right just going up there and spewing whatever. But as we've seen time and time again, they go up there and just lie to say whatever they have to get through the TV show and then go back to the drawing board. As far as what Garrett said on how he got on that tangent is, I don't know, man. I don't know that one loss puts them out just yet because they've only that one more loss, but it would put them in a little bit of trouble. Right now, it's them, it's LSU, and it's Ole Miss as far as the division goes. All sitting there with one loss. So Bama and LSU is going to be a huge one, and then. LSU's already beaten Ole Miss. Alabama's got to play Ole Miss, so that's an interesting little trio right now. But that'll be an inside track game for whoever wins here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But it's definitely way more interesting than it was at the start of the season. That's for sure.
Okay, if Alabama loses to LSU, you're not sold. They're out of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, but they won at Texas and escaped with their lives. But they won the game. It was a road game.
Right.
They lost to Tennessee, an incredible finish, but it was a road game. And
so you think they would be eliminated with a 52-49 loss at Tennessee, who could be number 2 in the country by the time we get to that point?
Well, they're number 2. Then we know that Georgia's going to be in the mix, and we know. My whole point is that they're one of the few teams that could lose a couple of games like that, even if I'm not saying those aren't. What if LSU wins the game by 8?
What about it?
You're saying that Alabama's still in the picture.
If they go win the rest of the way with 2 losses? Would you so you would say if they lose to LSU, they're just done, no matter what? There's 5 weeks, 6 weeks left. There's just way too much other stuff that's got to happen. Granted, if other teams in other parts of the country win out, well, then they can't do anything about that.
Has Alabama really ever looked good this year? Really, that's the best team in the country. Have we seen
not the
that?
best team in the country. No, absolutely
or
not.
Even the top 2 or 3.
We got to go to a guess, by the way. But I'm just saying that, I'm not ruling out them just in general. They lose to LSU, they're done. I don't agree with that because there's 1,000 different things that could happen
If they lose to
besides
LSU and don't play in the SEC championship game, they're done.
Well, yes, but that's a different topic, is it not?
Well, LSU would then have that inside.
They'd have the inside track, but they'd have to go and they'd have to go and win the rest of their games, which is entirely possible that they would go and do that.
And Ole Miss might be 63-60, like Tennessee.
Yeah,
too.
I'm just saying I'm not ruling them out at 2 losses, although it would be hard to imagine that they don't get in. Yes,
one of the things
hard
about
to imagine
college
they would get
football,
in.
when somebody loses 2 games, we hear that they're probably done. There are some that can, and they're not.
What I'm saying
is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Hey, you're getting ready for tailgate during the weekend. Great spot to go if you want your craft beers. Best selection of craft beers in town. Got the fall brews out right now. A lot of good stuff going there. What about Texas whiskeys? Best selection of those. If it's a whiskey made in Texas, they probably have it, whether it's Balcones, Devil's River, TX, Garrison Brothers. They've got them all there. There's many more that are made in Texas. They've got it there, all the varieties, all the different brands. That's what they do. Best selection of locally sourced whiskeys in the area. Also, great customer service. Second to none. If you're looking for something, if you're confused, you're lost, you don't know what to get, they can help you there. Great drive-through window, really fast. They can kind of even, I was in there one time and I said, yeah, can I get a bottle of so-and-so? And they said, and they yelled back to the person who was out there and said, yeah, 3rd shelf down over there, just to the left, right by your foot. Bam, got it. It was right there. So fast, moves right through. Always got great promotions on Instagram. Different things, different brands. They're always doing fun stuff. And they're available on DoorDash. If you don't know where they are, easy to find. Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank. Check them out on Instagram or just order them on DoorDash.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a 3rd row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get some something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
Here we go, 365 Sports, as we are halfway through this 5 o'clock hour. More than that, David Hellman, Fox Sports, on the Cowboys in the NFL. David, thanks for your time with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak as well. Did you expect a little bit less rustiness, or is that about what you expected from Dak?
You know, I don't get a lot of wins prognosticating. The Cowboys are pretty good at making me look stupid, so I'll take them where I can get them and say, yeah, other than, I mean, like that game played out basically exactly how I thought it would. I think if Noah Brown doesn't fumble on the 5-yard line and the Cowboys score there right before half, get a few more points out of your offense. It was undeniably very ugly in the first half. But what we know about this team, pre-snap penalties have been a problem for them forever. You figured Dak would be a little bit rusty, and this receiver core, just by its very nature, is pretty up and down. They got a lot of help from their defense. You kind of figured that would happen as well. So, yeah, I'd say they probably shorted me about a touchdown, but all in all, that is what I was expecting to see. I wasn't terribly surprised by what we saw.
David, do you think this is how most of the games are really going to go? I mean, even if they do the offense rolling a little bit, because they're going to play better teams down the line than the Lions, that most of the teams are going to be completely funneled this way, where the offense will look good at times, but it'll be stagnant, but the defense is just hunting all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing the formula for winning. And, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll play some cleaner games. There will be some more explosive games. Dak has proven that he has the capability to have those types of days. But look, I mean, this is not a team whose strength is or should be offense. Like I said, I mean, I don't feel wonderful about the talent at receiver, not top to bottom. The offensive line has been pleasantly surprising, but this is not a dominant offensive line. Dalton Schultz is dealing with an injury that is probably not going to go away. Like, he's going to be fighting through that, I would guess, for the rest of the season. So, like, the DNA doesn't seem like it's there for an offense that is consistently scoring 31, 38, 42 points. You know, I don't think we're going to see those 50-point explosions we saw a few times against some overmatched teams last year. And to their credit, I think the Cowboys realize that. I think they want to lean on their running game and put their defense in position to take advantage in the second half, which is, it worked when Cooper Rush was the quarterback. It's now worked with Dak as the quarterback. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll have some instances where it looks a little bit cleaner than that. But yeah, I think this is the identity, and I think that's going to be the blueprint moving forward.
I looked at your Twitter feed in case there's a couple of different things you pop up that I didn't see, or maybe some thoughts that you have, and we appreciate your time every Monday. But I saw you retweet Brett Coleman and the play by DeMarcus Lawrence at the goal line and what he did. I know Micah Parsons is unbelievable, but DeMarcus, that's a monstrous play. DeMarcus Lawrence, excuse me. That's a monstrous play. And, I mean, split the double team, made the play. How huge was that moment?
I'm very happy that we're getting to a point. It's so great to have so many different people in media who are looking at different things. Like, you know, Brett and other people like him. There are whole people out there focus on line play and look at the things that you're probably not going to notice watching the TV copy. And if you pay attention to it, it'll make you a smarter football fan. Because this is the type of stuff we're talking about when we say it's lazy to judge DeMarcus Lawrence by his sack total. Like, he's never been a big sack total guy. I think his career high is 14. People dog him because he makes $20 million and hasn't had a double-digit sack season in a few years. And that's cool. Good for you. But this is the type of stuff DeMarcus Lawrence does. And this isn't new. And not to take any credit away from Micah Parsons, that's the beauty of this defense is you've got about 3 guys on the front, maybe 4 if Sam Williams can keep doing what he was doing yesterday, who command that type of attention, who need to be double and triple teamed, who can fight off those blocks, who can get into the backfield despite that and force takeaways. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's been that guy for 5 years at this point. And so I think it's cool to give a guy shine like that and to say like, I think DeMarcus has 3 sacks this season. But his impact is so much bigger than that total. And that play forcing the fumble that kind of turned the game around, is a picture perfect example of it.
Well, there's a reason that when the Cowboys, when they were in a little bit of salary cap trouble, didn't just send him out the door, that they renegotiated him and kept him. It sometimes that can be, front office is making a bad choice, but they've never really been afraid to let someone go when they're totally unproductive, and he's never been that.
Yeah, and to DeMarcus's credit as well, like DeMarcus talks tough, and he wants his money just like everybody else does. But like at the end of the day, like DeMarcus Lawrence has been pretty committed to being a member of the Cowboys as well. He could have said, "F you, cut me, and I'll get a new deal somewhere else, and I don't care." But he reworked his deal so that he could stay and play with Dan Quinn. And like I said, nobody's a pure hero, right? Like, you still got to make the money make sense at the end of the day. But it's interesting that in 2 straight contract negotiations, DeMarcus Lawrence has done what he needed to do to make sure he stayed with the Cowboys. I think part of that is probably knowing the power of playing for such a visible team. But I think he likes the scheme here and the guys that he's playing and working with as well.
So you have Philly unbeaten, Giants 6-1. They just keep finding ways to win with Brian Daboll, what they've done. And the Cowboys are 5-2. Washington's won a couple of games. We know that they're not even average, but it used to be a conference. One team would get hot every year and just run away with it, or it seemed that way. Not back in the 90s or the 80s. We knew it was a great conference or division. Your thoughts about where the NFC East is right now?
It's a good question. And I think the lens that you look at all this through probably colors the way you think about it. And like case in point, the Giants are 6-1. They keep finding ways to win. Like you said, their running game is incredibly impressive. They keep finding ways to run for 160, 180, 200. Yesterday they ran for 230 yards. And that's without a really dynamic passing attack to complement it. So, they're clearly doing something right. But at the same time, I have a hard time taking them that seriously because I watched the Cowboys beat them in their own house with Cooper Rush at quarterback. So I'm still waiting to see something that tells me that I really need to take the Giants seriously. I don't think I've seen it yet. I'm very impressed by the Eagles. But at the same time, I still like to see them go against a higher form of competition. They beat the hell out of the Vikings, who are 5-1. I'm not trying to say they're not a good team. But really, this applies to the entire NFL, I think. I just said this on our show an hour or so ago. You got the Bills and the Chiefs. I feel lock solid confident that those 2 teams are Super Bowl contenders, like really, really good teams. And then I can talk myself out of like everyone else, especially in the NFC. Again, I think the Eagles are clearly the best of the bunch, but I think they're a notch or 2 below the Bills and the Chiefs. And then outside of the Eagles, I don't know who to be completely sold in the NFC, which the good news is that means it's wide open. It's all there for the Cowboys, just like it's all there for damn near everybody else. So I'm not sold there are very many truly good teams, But the cool thing about that is it should make for a really entertaining December and January.
How about with Green Bay and Tampa Bay, and like, who are they?
Oh, the Rams, the defending champs. Yeah.
If you line up like the 5 or 6 teams that we all thought would be good at the start of the season, the Eagles are in the NFC. I mean, specifically, the Eagles are really the only team that is delivering on that hype. I mean, the Rams are a mess right now. The Packers and Bucks are worse than a mess. We'll see about Dallas. We're finally going to get a more complete picture of what they are with Dak back in the lineup. But yeah, I mean, every team in the NFC that's near 500 should feel pretty good about their chances, in my opinion.
David, they lost to Jordan Lewis for the season to a foot injury after he had an interception. That is one of the guys who on that defense is, he's going to fade into the background because of Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons and all that. But he is kind of the worker bee in the defensive backfield. How big of a loss is that for them going forward?
I don't want to downplay it. I love Jordan Lewis. Like, I love what he's about. I love his approach, his character. He's been an underrated player. I would say, the one knock on him, like, he couldn't get on the field, and I feel like that was more of a coaching decision than his own performance. And then Dan Quinn shows up, and he's been the starting nickel ever since, and he's been fantastic way more often than he hasn't been. So I don't want to downplay that. I think it's a big deal, but it is fortunate for the Cowboys. That's a loss that I think they're at least equipped to deal with. Obviously, Deron Bland, the rookie out of Fresno State, he had a wonderful training camp, and he's played well in moments where he's been called on. I believe he already has an interception this season. I think maybe that came against Washington. So you've got him, and then if that doesn't work, you also have the option where you can, Anthony Brown has played plenty of nickel in his life, so you could move him inside if you needed to and play one of the youngsters outside. So, like I said, don't want to downplay that, but it's at least a position with some depth where I think you can get by without him.
David, you got anything else, Paul?
Nope.
David, thank you.
I have a question.
We got one we want. I have one. Maybe you're about to steal it.
We talk mostly college football on this show. How about those LSU Tigers, David?
Oh, man, look. I mean, first of all, if you know one thing about me, Alabama's a big rival, and that's cool. But like, if there's one game, if LSU had to go 1-11, the game I would pick is Ole Miss. I hate them. I love to hate them. So to embarrass them and ruin their unbeaten season, Ole Miss has gone into Death Valley unbeaten 6 times in their program's history and have gotten their butts kicked every single time. So the highlight of my year, I mean, I don't want them to lose out, but if they did, I would at least have that to keep me warm at night. And, hey, I don't know if Brian Kelly's a nice guy. It certainly seems like a lot of people don't like him. But like I said, like a lot of people have asked me how I feel about Brian Kelly, and I'm like, I really don't care if he's a nice guy, if he can coach. And they get better every week. Like this is a well-coached football team. It's weird to say. Like the special teams are a bit of an adventure, but damn near every component of LSU's team has gotten better since they lost to Paul's Knowles on opening night. Like this team looks nothing like that team, and that is the mark of a well-coached team. So I couldn't be happier, and I get a week off to get ready to have my heart broken by Alabama, but I can't wait.
Jaden Daniels in the last 2 games against Florida and Ole Miss has completed 44 of 60 passes for 597 yards, 5 touchdowns, run for 165, 37 carries, and scored 6 times. That's crazy good.
He's been unbelievable, and I mean, I knew he was a good player when he transferred, but they're getting absolutely everything out of him. He's so much fun to watch, and like I said, I went into this season thinking that Alabama was going to beat us by 30 or 40, and maybe they still will, but I'm a lot more excited for that game than I thought I would be a month ago.
Thank you, David. As always, David Hellman, Fox Sports out in California, covers the Cowboys and also the NFL. And I'm telling you, man, I watched part of the Bucs game. Ugh. They threw the deep pass. Evans should have caught what would have been about a 75-yard touchdown, whatever it was. Just flat out dropped it, bobbed it in the air. Pop Cup couldn't catch it. Packers with Rodgers lose to the Commanders.
But everything else of the Bucs and the Panthers was, I mean, like say they complete that pass. Maybe that changes something a little bit for them, but it was the, 60 other plays that they ran that were all not good either, the Jack is well aware that the Packers have no, playmakers outside of Aaron Jones.
Yeah, but that's also when Aaron Rodgers just makes somebody good.
Sometimes you just can't, though.
No, you're right. You're right. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. Do not forget, please, that tonight at 10:30, had somebody tweet me over the weekend, or maybe it was Friday, about Sports Tonight and our pregame, what we do with KWTX and CW Channel tonight, 10:30, every weeknight, Sports Tonight on CW Channel, and also our pregame this Saturday afternoon will be Baylor, Texas Tech. Will start at, 4 o'clock or 4:30. We'll start at 4:30, and that will be on the CW Channel Saturday. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 coaches who fans are stuck with, at least for a bit. And sometimes this is not going to be it's not going to be all about bashing. Sometimes it's just about, like, look, your university's made this decision. You need to let them run for a little bit. But there are things, and I read probably 5 different columns over the last 2 days about buyouts and fully guaranteed contracts, and all pretty much hinging around our number 1 guy. But some of these other names just kept popping up all over. So number 5, Brent Venables. Oklahoma's going to see this out for a little bit. I know that the way that things turned in the early part of the season were not good, but they're going to see this out. And look, Dylan Gabriel's back. The offense is better with him there, much, much better. It's actually functional with him there. The defense, you're going to have to give him a little while to figure that out. The guy's a defensive guru for a reason, but I do think that hearing a lot of the fans go, like, all of a sudden having buyer's remorse on all of it is kind of silly to me. But again, they're going to stick it out for a little while.
Well, I can say this because I'm one of them, but OU fans are freaking spoiled. And they had to face some adversity for the first time. And I don't mean like adversity as in lost a game and like, oh, no, we lost a game and we're out of the playoff or whatever. But I mean like, oh, gosh, like an existential crisis. That there hasn't been it's been a long time since they've had to face that potentially. And I think that that's, jarring. And it's hard to face that when you've had pretty much, cruise control for 20 years. Basically over 20 years. So, yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow getting off to the rough start. But I think, there was some encouraging signs. Like you said, having Dylan Gabriel back, that makes a world of difference for this offense. And you can at least say, okay, a couple of their stumbles, they didn't have their guy. Now, Jackson Arnold's giving them plenty of hope. I mean, by the way, did y'all see that Denton Guyer Allen score? I don't even know if we mentioned that on Friday.
I didn't see the score. I watched it.
Freaking Louise.
Yeah, Arnold was destroyed. Allen
you commit Jackson Arnold, quarterback at Guyer.
Is it a Bowen? Bowen, the kid that's committed to Notre Dame, was unbelievable. Yeah, they're really
Allen got trashed on national television. It was bad, but Jackson Arnold's going to get people excited about the post-Gabriel era. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Iowa State up first now, or up next, I should say. And, man, they are just this close to being, like, unbeaten in Big 12 play and winning every single game. But it's just not enough in the tank for them. So, yeah, let's see how the rest of this plays out. But I think people are going to calm down a little when it comes to Venables.
Yeah. Doing the big one, too, by the way, I have to make my picks on Monday for the Big 12 because we have them on the show tonight. That comes up at 6:30 right here.
In Ames.
Yeah, but it's in Ames, and like I'm picking Oklahoma just because Dylan Gabriel makes that much of a difference to me. Yeah. But, like if Iowa State found a way to win this one and send OU back into spiral, wouldn't shock me at all either.
No, they're due.
Yeah. Number 4, Mel Tucker. He and Jimbo Fisher almost had the identical contract, by the way. 10 years, $95 million. I think Mel Tucker's is slightly less guaranteed, but Michigan State is not just going to turn around and go, okay, here you go. Here's $84 million.
Yeah.
Oopsie-daisy. Yeah. They're going to let him find it, and they should. They absolutely should. But part of the thing is I'm maybe telling you to reserve your complaints or to funnel them in the right direction when it comes to the coaches not living up to it so far. But Mel Tucker, a year after he got that, and again, there's so much argument to be made that you're to kind of negotiate against yourself. And if a guy wants to leave, sometimes you should just let him. Because if you believe in the solidarity or the direction of your athletic department, you should be fine. But not everybody has that top-down president, AD, coach alignment. And then if a coach leaves, they can find another one who can just find in.
And they also know that even though they have had a really good run against Michigan, and they've been good, but, you have Michigan right there, still there. You have Ohio State, who's the juggernaut. And yeah, they probably bid against themselves. And
ain't no probably about it. I mean, they definitely did bid against themselves in some ways.
And you hope that for his sake, he turns it around. I had Reed Heim on, who coaches at Denton Guyer, by the way. He coached under Mel. He was a quality assistant at Colorado. and he raved about it, about all the details and stuff.
And part of that was Michigan State still scarred from the last time LSU had a coach opening and wanted their coach, and that was Nick Saban.
Oh, yeah.
So they maybe even reacted to something that was 20 years ago a little bit too much. History kind of stays with people a little bit more.
There's some things, like kind of like the big cigar smoking, like dog, pictures and like the kind of the tough guy stuff that he was putting out. And after a very successful season that I saw a lot of people complaining about, and now they're using it as like fodder to turn around on him. So, people are having fun at his expense because last year there was, they had a great
Kenneth Walker,
year.
look what he's doing right now.
Well, and you got to take that into account when you're talking about this year in Michigan State. Like, you don't just lose him and just everything's just, okay, on to the next thing. You don't rely on transfers as much as they did. And just, that's always going to happen. There were some things that bounced their way last year. So, he's a guy that's not going anywhere, obviously, but right now finds himself, in a tough spot and with a very crucial game coming up this weekend that, depending on how that goes, that's going to be the interesting conversation, is if they go out and they get blown away by Michigan, like how much are we hearing about Mel Tucker and Michigan State, on Sunday? But if they go there and they play a respectable game, then, maybe that quiets down a little bit. But yeah, they kind of dug themselves this hole, and whether or not it's a hole or it's just, a temporary pit, we'll find out. But they don't have an enviable schedule. They still got 3 top 25 teams with 5 games remaining. That's at Michigan, at number 17, Illinois, at number 13, Penn State. They got Rutgers and Indiana, which are gimmies in between there. But even with those 2 wins, that's still short of a bowl game.
I don't even know if those are gimmies. I don't know if Rutgers is. Yeah,
well, Indiana's a definitely gimme. But yeah, they're going to be cutting it close to making a bowl game.
Yeah, number 3, Mario Cristobal. I think Miami fans thought he was going to come and completely turn things around right away. And look, Tyler Van Dyke has regressed, but after what happened against Duke this weekend, it kind of shows you where Miami really was, because they just cratered against the Blue Devils. And yes, they have a new commitment in the athletic department to building facilities and all this stuff, but that stuff isn't there yet. It's a little harder to sell a picture of a new facility than it is to sell the facility. And
just because he played on those great teams doesn't mean he'll bring them back.
No.
Scott Frost.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got a long way to go. There's depth issues there at Miami. That Duke game will live in infamy, and it'll take a long time for him to wash that off. He's going to have to do a lot of things and actually win the ACC, something Miami has never done, to probably wash it off.
Yeah, and Van Dyke's hurt, so it's, and I don't know if that's good news or bad news, quite frankly, at this stage. But yeah, no, massive disappointment. I'm, part of me just being devilish is kind of chuckling at certain Miami fans who are very loud and obnoxious and braggadocious about all the NIL money that they were going to, spend this offseason or were spending. And there's just a lot of trash talk going on. And it's kind of funny because I know this offseason, it'll be same fans lining up from the same programs doing the same thing. But, yeah, there's a little bit of like, you kind of deserve that based on how you were talking. But, yeah, it's been rough. And I don't know, man. It's very curious.
They lost 5 fumbles in that game?
Yeah.
It was they're not a very good football team. But I think Mike Elko deserves a lot of credit with Duke.
3 interceptions?
I think Mike Elko deserves a lot of credit as a first-year head coach at Duke. He's doing some good things there.
Yeah, former A&M.
Yeah. Mario Cristobal, by the way, did the if you don't want to be here, don't be here after that game, which is always a bad thing. Number 2, Kirk Ferentz. Look, they've had 2 coaches in 700 years at Iowa, in Hayden Fry and him. That's who they've had. And they'll let him retire. And they'll let him begrudgingly, he'll do that.
Like Chuck Nolan, Bill Cowher.
Yeah,
Mike
that's
Tomlin
what they
type
do
stuff.
at Iowa. So as much as the fans may be mad about the offense, and maybe he'll move his son to a different job, but Kirk Ferentz has earned at Iowa the right to go out on his own terms, even though there can be people who will push him out, but that's just not what they do. It's not in their culture.
Also include his son?
I mean, he might move him around, but they've got to do something about that, because Craig used the term malpractice last week, and I think it's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous what's going on there as far as that offense goes. I think it really sucks for those really incredible defensive players that they have, that they're obviously given it every effort imaginable to even make games remain close and give them even the fighting chance, and yet it's all for naught because there's just nothing doing on the offensive side of things. And I would be so pissed as an Iowa fan right now. Like, this is what you're presenting me on a weekly basis. And then it'd be one thing if you're like, okay, well, let's get, but like, you're just acting like it's not a problem. And it's so very clearly a problem. And that's what would make me even more mad. Like, that is what would flip me from just being disappointed to being angry about the response, is trying to tell me that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing and this isn't as bad as it looks. Yeah. But I mean, he's a lifer there. He's not going anywhere. They'll still win some games like 7-3 or whatever. I did see where Pat Fitzgerald, we're getting Iowa and Northwestern coming up, and joked that they should kick off at 6 a.m. So nobody would have to watch that, but that'll be something. Yeah. I don't know what, but that'll be something.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz at this point is the Monty Python. It's only a flesh wound guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And number 1, Jimbo Fisher owns the Texas A&M athletic department. Andy Stables wrote a great column about this today.
I saw it.
They gave him every drop of power in this. 0 buyout if he wanted to leave on his own, and fully guaranteed if they wanted him to leave of their volition. They're going to have to strongly suggest he change some things, but he does not have to listen.
That contract's the picture of desperation, man.
That's what I was going to say. Were they that desperate?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely they were.
Yeah.
They felt like they were close. They felt like they were knocking on the door over and over, and they just needed that championship pedigree head coach to put it all together because someone couldn't, finish the job. And here they are, and they're in a contract that they are just totally screwed in getting out of.
That's almost criminal, the contract.
No, it's on. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's on the up and up, and a lot of big donors.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's almost criminal. He had them in that situation where everything's guaranteed, and he can leave anytime he wants.
It would be if he was blackmailing them to get it, but they were the ones that were like, no, look, because he didn't just say yes right away. They added, and it ends up to where he's got the contract he has now. I will say Neil Brown's going to be on this list as like asterisk number 6 or whatever, because it's just writings on the wall there in Morgantown. I'm not going to deny that anymore. So, yeah.
All right, Paul, very well done. Thank you very much. Again, sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Jacob Wilson, Emery Winter. Levi's out there doing something. I don't know, but he's out there. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, all of you in the chat room. I had to get away from it for a little bit only because we had so much going on with the show. Thank you. We had a bunch of texts today. Thank you. Our sponsors, thank you. I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.